CEO meets his ex-girlfriend on a luxury cruise and is completely shocked by the secret she kept for years. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get started. Nathan Parker's private driver carefully placed his custom-made luggage onto a discreetly gleaming ramp, leading him toward the extravagant cruise ship. Standing at the entrance, Nathan paused to take a lingering look around. He had flown in that morning on a first-class flight, still wearing the sharp suit he'd chosen for an emergency board meeting the previous day. Yet for once, he wasn't thinking about corporate figures or elaborate presentations. This trip was supposed to be his break from all that, a chance to vanish into the open sea and forget, if only for a little while, about the restless demands of his life as the renowned CEO of Parker Global Holdings. From the outside, the luxury vessel resembled a floating palace. Towering decks, endless rows of windows, and shimmering railings reflected a kaleidoscope of lights onto the harbor waters. Guests strolled up the gangplank with beaming smiles, taking selfies or chatting excitedly about the days ahead. Days dedicated to sunshine, gentle ocean breezes, and carefree laughter. Nathan, though not usually one for such indulgences, had promised himself that, for once, he would prioritize his own peace of mind over endless appointments and late-night emails. As he stepped aboard, a wave of music and chatter embraced him. The staff, dressed in crisp uniforms, lined the corridors offering champagne flutes and gracious greetings. Several recognized him. His face, after all, had graced more than a few financial magazine covers. But with courtesy and perhaps a touch of genuine respect, they averted their eyes after a polite welcome, granting him the anonymity he craved. Immediately, he felt the difference: the gentle sway of the ship, the playful bounce underfoot, and the sense that beyond these decks, time could temporarily stand still. No pending calls from potential investors, no laptop perpetually open to spreadsheets, no relentless pace. That was precisely why, upon reading that email from his doctor, "You need to lower stress levels, Mr. Parker, or risk more severe consequences," he'd decided to go on this cruise. He found his suite at the end of a lavish corridor, behind double doors that opened to reveal a vast space more akin to a penthouse than a typical cabin. Plush carpets, a marble-topped minibar, and a set of sliding doors leading onto a private balcony overlooking the ocean. He placed his phone on silent, tossed his jacket onto a velvet armchair, and let out a long breath. Nathan had no intention of mingling excessively with the other guests. He pictured a low-key schedule, sitting quietly on his balcony with a glass of single malt, watching the waves stretch out into infinity. Perhaps he'd let himself read something other than profit and loss statements. Maybe a novel. But ironically, the more he stood there, the more the old restlessness in his chest reminded him he had never been the type to stay completely idle. He decided on a short walk around the main deck, reasoning that a quick exploration might help him become acquainted with the ship's layout. Stepping out of his suite again, he cut a sleek figure in a casual linen shirt and a pair of well-fitted trousers, looking more relaxed than he'd been in years, yet still radiating that trademark CEO confidence. On his stroll, he discovered multiple restaurants, from fine dining spots with piano music to relaxed bistros serving international cuisine. There were multiple pools, hot tubs, a spa, and even a small cinema. Beneath the shimmering nautical decor, laughter rippled from one lounge where a karaoke session was in progress. He smiled to himself at the notion. Maybe in another life he'd be up there crooning some old classic. But for now, he tucked that fleeting whim aside and proceeded outside to the open-air deck. The deck was illuminated by warm, subtle lights, and the first stars of the evening had begun to pierce the darkening sky. Far beyond the rails, the sea spread out in rolling waves, the distance dissolving into the horizon. Nathan leaned forward, arms resting on the railing, his gaze drifting upward. Something about being out here, a minuscule speck against vast nature, eased the tension in his mind. He began to think that this trip might actually help him feel human again. A hush of footsteps behind him made him shift slightly, but he didn't turn. A few polite passers-by strolled around, an older couple perhaps, or a family excited about tomorrow's itinerary. Yet something in the air felt charged, and he found himself aware of the subtle change in the atmosphere. A faint memory, intangible but compelling, prodded at his conscience. Without clear reason, his pulse quickened. He shrugged it off, thinking maybe he was just tired, and decided to get an early dinner. Walking through a glass door onto a more sheltered promenade, he was greeted by the whimsical glow of string lights overhead. A band played gentle instrumental tunes. Guests laughed softly at their candle-lit tables, waiters moving gracefully among them with trays of wine and gourmet dishes. Settling into a quiet corner table, Nathan paused when a waiter approached him. "Sir, would you care for our seafood platter, or would you prefer to see our full menu?" Nathan gave a polite nod. "The platter sounds fine, and a glass of your best Pinot Noir, please." He scanned the dining area casually, noticing how most passengers were traveling in pairs or larger groups. Some were honeymooners, enthralled with each other. Others were large extended families celebrating anniversaries or birthdays. He spotted an older man with a big grin making a toast at a table decorated with balloons. A younger mother was helping her toddler settle into a high chair, cooing encouragingly. In that quiet moment, Nathan felt a pinch of nostalgia for simpler times, days long before his world had shifted from youthful ambitions to global expansions and corporate battles. As he sipped his wine, the last traces of bright orange in the sky gave way to indigo. The music lulled him in, so much so that he momentarily forgot about the stress he'd come here to escape. The subtle roll of the ship beneath his seat, combined with the mellow conversation surrounding him, felt hypnotic. Then, the moment happened. Unexpected, fleeting, but so powerful it might as well have shattered a glass. A figure passed by on the opposite side of the dining area, pushing what looked like a wide stroller. Something struck him. A gesture. A posture. At first, he dismissed it as a trick of low light or passing resemblance. But as soon as the silhouette turned slightly, revealing a side profile in the glimmer of the overhead lights, recognition clamped onto him like a vice. His heart raced as though an electric current had shot through him. It couldn't be. Alicia. The same Alicia he'd known in what felt like another lifetime. The Alicia who once was the entire reason for his earliest leaps of faith in love. She was older now, but elegantly so. Her hair, cascading in gentle waves, framed a face that still had the features he remembered. With a single halting breath, he realized she was pushing a double stroller. Two little ones, possibly toddlers or infants, rested inside, though from this distance he could only see a tuft of hair and the outline of tiny blankets. Before he could stop himself, he got up, nearly knocking over his chair. The waiter who had just brought a fresh basket of bread startled, but Nathan didn't notice. His focus was solely on the woman disappearing around a corner. Maneuvering past other diners, he followed, ignoring the anxious pounding in his chest. 15 steps took him around the corner and into a quieter hallway that led to another set of glass doors. At first, he feared he'd lost her in the crowd of passengers, but then he saw her again, stepping outside onto a deck that was less populated, the wind ruffling her hair. "Alicia?" he called out, his voice hardly more than a shaky exhale. She froze mid-step, but didn't turn. In the stroller, one of the babies stirred, letting out a soft cry. "Alicia," he repeated, gentler this time, taking a step toward her. Finally, she turned around, their eyes locking, and he felt like the air had been stolen from his lungs. In her gaze, he saw shock, confusion, and something deeper. Was it resentment, or perhaps an old, unhealed sadness? "Nathan," she murmured, her voice almost lost against a sudden gust of sea breeze. A slight tremor gripped her. He forced a weak attempt at a smile, but it came out more as a stunned half-grimace. "I didn't know you'd be here." She swallowed, glancing at the babies. Their small heads shifted, eyes still closed in slumber. Then she met his gaze again. I needed a break, a real one. The heaviness in her tone hinted at a story that might mirror his own. Burdens, sacrifices, untold heartbreak. But in that moment, all Nathan could focus on were the two babies in the stroller. Identical expressions, identical features. There was something in their soft profiles that stirred an impossible recognition inside him. Twins, he breathed, feeling a jolt, an inexplicable anxiety flickering in his mind. She looked down at them, and for an instant, an invisible barrier seemed to erect itself between her and Nathan. Yes, She hesitated, as though waging a private war about what to reveal. Are you traveling alone? The question felt so small, but the weight behind it was monumental. She exhaled unsteadily, one hand resting protectively on the stroller handle. Then, as if her voice had chosen that moment to break free of burdens withheld too long, she answered, Yes, alone with them. Nathan's heart thumped dangerously. He tried to moderate his breathing, but each breath came out in shallow bursts. Memories of their younger days when he was an ambitious upstart and she was the supportive yet independent spirit encouraging him, flooded back. He had left for expansions in another country. She'd stayed behind, tears in her eyes, their final goodbye overshadowed by the gravitational pull of his rising career. He looked at her, then at the twins. Alicia, he began, voice catching. Is there something? Her gaze flicked to the babies, then to him. She bit her lip, as though gathering every ounce of courage. We should talk, she finally said. But not here, not with them asleep, and not in the middle of all this. Nathan nodded, unable to tear his eyes away from the twins. Despite the ocean breeze cooling the air, he felt sweat forming on his temples. With Alicia's few words, an avalanche of possibilities ignited in his mind. And perhaps none was more overwhelming than one question. Was he the father? He wanted to exhale, but his lungs refused to cooperate. Alicia's pained expression, the subtle tension in her posture, those signs were starting to confirm the swirling suspicion in his chest. Yet, the most terrifying part was that he wasn't certain he was ready to hear the answer. He swallowed hard, his voice barely above a whisper. We can meet tomorrow morning for coffee? On the Lido deck? Alicia nodded, relief mingling with anxiety on her face. Yes, I'll see you there. Around 10, maybe? Their eyes lingered on each other, neither fully prepared for the conversation awaiting them. Finally, Alicia gave him a small nod. She pivoted the stroller away and retreated, the wheel's quiet squeaks the only sound bridging the silent tension in the air. In her wake, Nathan was left standing by the railing, staring into the starlit horizon with the hush of waves below. The hum of distant music and the soft laughter of other passengers resumed, but it all felt miles away from what was roiling within him. He closed his eyes, inhaling the salt-laced wind, a single piercing thought echoing in his mind. Have I unknowingly been a father all this time? He'd come on this cruise to escape. Instead, fate had confronted him with a secret so monumental that it threatened to tear open every carefully sealed corner of his life. Tomorrow morning, the truth would unravel further. And in the stillness of the ocean night, Nathan Parker felt more powerless than he ever had in any boardroom battle. The next morning dawned with streaks of coral and pale yellow illuminating the horizon. The cruise ship's horn gave a deep bellow as it glided farther into open water, leaving the distant coastline behind. From his private balcony, Nathan Parker sipped a black coffee, his mind roaming through the events of the previous night. That fleeting encounter in the hallway felt almost surreal in daylight. Yet here he was, arms resting on the balcony rail, thoughts spiraling toward one unavoidable possibility. He'd barely slept. Each time he closed his eyes, Alicia's face popped into his consciousness. Her startled expression, the subtle trembling in her voice, and of course the two sleeping babies in the stroller. As the sun peaked higher, gilding the deck below in gold, his heart pounded with a familiar mix of excitement and dread. A father. Could he really have become a father without knowing it? Nathan refused breakfast. He was too tense to eat. Instead, he showered, dressed in a casual short-sleeved shirt, and made his way toward the Lido deck. The morning air felt crisp and carried a smell of sun lotion and ocean brine. Families and couples were already staking out lounge chairs, and kids, some as young as 4 or 5, were chasing each other, squealing happily. In the midst of their laughter, he felt a strange knot in his gut. How would a child of his own behave, laugh, cry? He realized with a twinge of shame that he had never given much thought to fatherhood before. Business expansions, acquisitions, and shareholder meetings had always drowned out any personal desire to settle down. He reached the open-air cafe near the center of the Lido deck, where small, round tables were arranged to provide sweeping ocean views. A few early risers sipped espresso. Others seemed lost in novels or crossword puzzles. Nathan scanned the area and spotted Alicia at a table near the railing, discreetly feeding one of the twins from a small bottle. The other baby was dozing off in a travel carrier by her feet. Though the setting felt calm, a gentle breeze, the hush of waves, soft chatter from nearby passengers, Nathan's pulse raced. He forced himself to walk steadily, reminding his face to form something resembling a friendly expression, not the swirl of panic and curiosity surging inside him. Alicia looked up, meeting his gaze. For a second, old memories flitted between them. Stolen kisses when they were younger, the intangible closeness that once defined their bond. Then, as swiftly as those images arose, the tension of the present sank in. "Morning," Nathan said, trying to keep his voice neutral. "Morning," she replied, adjusting the baby bottle in her hand. She gestured at the chair across from her. "Have a seat." He pulled out the chair gently and sat. For an awkward beat, neither spoke. Nathan's eyes roamed to the infants. They were both snugly dressed in matching pastel-colored onesies. The one in Alicia's arms peered up at Nathan with wide, drowsy eyes, as if in mild curiosity at this unfamiliar face. Without preamble, Alicia took a quiet breath. "Her name is Lily," she said, looking at the baby in her arms. "The other one," she glanced at the dozing infant in the carrier, "is Lucas." Astonished, Nathan found himself momentarily without words. Lily. Lucas. He replayed those names in his head, as if speaking them silently might make them more real. "They're beautiful," he said finally, his voice husky with emotion. Alicia gently patted Lily's back to help her burp. "Thank you," she murmured. Then she lifted her gaze. "You want coffee? I already ordered a tea, but I'll flag someone down," Nathan said. He beckoned a passing waiter and requested a cappuccino, then turned back to Alicia. Unsure how to begin, he pressed his hands against the table. "So," he said quietly, I don't know where to start." Alicia's face softened with a hint of empathy. "Neither do I," she admitted, adjusting Lily so that the baby rested comfortably against her shoulder. "So much time has passed, Nathan, and so much has changed." He nodded, swallowing the knot in his throat. For a moment, the hush between them stretched. They had parted roughly 2 years ago, maybe a bit more, when his expansion plans demanded he relocate abroad. They'd argued about her reluctance to uproot her life and follow. Words had been said, left unresolved. Eventually, they'd both walked away from the relationship. Time marched on, and apparently, so had life. Nathan cleared his throat. "I was away, so consumed in setting up offices in London and Tokyo, and—" He trailed off. Excuses sounded hollow now. I had no idea you were pregnant." Her eyes flitted down, resting on Lily's small fist curled around Alicia's blouse. "I discovered it a month after you left," she said, her voice subdued. I wasn't prepared either. She paused, inhaling carefully. At first, I told myself I'd find a way to contact you. But you know how it was. New phone numbers, new addresses, you traveling so much. And part of me was afraid you wouldn't want them. You were so busy, always moving. I couldn't bear the idea that you'd see the twins as an obstacle to your career. Nathan gripped the edge of the table. The guilt he felt was like a vice on his chest. Alicia, you must know I would never consider them an inconvenience. His voice caught. He gave a small, shaky exhale before continuing. I'm sorry that you went through this alone. Her eyes glistened for a second, but she blinked it away. I had help. Family, some friends. But it's been difficult. I never intended to hide them from you forever. I guess I just didn't know how to break it to you once you'd become this unstoppable CEO, and we'd drifted so far apart. He looked at Lily, then at Lucas, who was shifting, maybe dreaming in his carrier. Did they have his eyes? A certain shape of brow that matched his mother's? Tiny details took on immense significance now. They're ours? He asked, though the question felt obvious. He needed to hear her say it, to confirm the intangible swirl in his mind. Alicia nodded slowly, her eyes steady on his. They're yours, Nathan. Ours. They're 10 months old. He leaned back in his chair, the reality finally anchored. 10 months. He calculated the timeline in his head, recalling that month, that final weekend before his abrupt departure. All the pieces slid into place with an almost painful clarity. He pressed his lips together to keep them from trembling. The waiter arrived at that moment with the cappuccino, placing it gently on the table. Nathan stared at the cup, not quite sure if he could drink anything without his hands shaking. After the waiter left, Alicia spoke again, voice hushed. Look, I'm not asking for anything. I'm not demanding child support or involvement. I booked this cruise to get some rest. My aunt insisted she'd watch the babies for a week, but I actually thought the break might help me figure out next steps in my own life. I didn't know you'd be on this exact ship. Her tone carried a slight defensive edge, as though she expected him to accuse her of orchestrating the chance meeting. He quickly shook his head. I don't think you planned any of this. It's some cosmic twist. He forced a faint, sad smile. I'm the one who boarded last minute. The hush that followed crackled with unspoken feelings. Alicia's face held traces of relief, but also the guarded vulnerability of someone who had braced herself for confrontation. Meanwhile, Nathan's mind churned through a haze of regrets, old affections, and a surprising sense of awe at the idea that these two small humans belonged to him. At last, he took a tentative sip of his cappuccino, though his taste buds barely registered the flavor. I'd like to be part of their lives, he said finally, if you'll let me. Alicia's gaze wandered over his expression, searching for sincerity. I wouldn't want to deny them their father, but do you realize what this means? Involvement with you? It's complicated. Your schedule, your travels, your entire empire. I don't want them to be just an afterthought. Trust me, he said, leaning forward, voice tinged with regretful determination. I'm learning the hard way that none of that matters more than family. I came on this cruise partly because I've been burning myself out. My doctor warned me I'm on the brink of serious health issues. And if this revelation has taught me anything, it's that I have to change my priorities. He glanced again at the twins, feeling something in his chest that was neither purely joy nor sorrow, but an overwhelming, urgent desire to protect these two beings. I'm scared, he admitted softly. I've never been a father before, but I want to try. Alicia swallowed. A tear threatened at the corner of her eye, but she composed herself, giving a small nod. One step at a time, she whispered. We'll see how the next few days go. This ship is big, but at the same time, it's an enclosed space. Maybe that's what we need. to actually spend time together, with them, without either of us running off to the next task. Without a second thought, Nathan reached across the table and gingerly touched Lily's tiny hand. The baby's small fingers curled around his thumb, her soft skin warm against his. That gesture, so simple, struck Nathan's heart like lightning. He was, in that moment, certain that he would never see life the same way again. They spent a few more minutes in hesitant conversation, details about the twins' routine, how Alicia had been managing a remote freelance job, the challenges of balancing finances alone. Before they parted, Alicia mentioned she'd be taking the babies to a children's activity area by the family pool after lunch. Nathan offered to come along if she felt comfortable. She thought for a moment, then nodded. Yes, come. They might like that. Rising to his feet, Nathan brushed a light kiss on Lily's forehead, a spontaneous act, and he marveled at how natural it felt. Then he gave a gentle pat on Lucas's back, who was still mostly asleep, peacefully oblivious to the sudden storm of revelations swirling around him. Alicia carefully gathered her things, and Nathan helped pick up the diaper bag. They walked together for a short distance before their paths diverged. She took the corridor toward the elevator leading to her cabin, and he headed back across the open deck. With each step away from them, an ache formed in his chest, a longing that was entirely new. He paused by the ship's railing, letting the breeze ruffle his hair. Searing questions tumbled in his mind. How could he begin making up for lost time? Was there even a way to piece together what had once broken between them? And would Alicia trust him not to vanish again the moment work pressure surged? Lost in thought, he realized that everything about his life was now in flux. The revelations of the morning had flipped his world upside down. But for the first time in ages, as he stared out at the shimmering expanse of ocean, he felt a surge of hope. The day's events were far from over. And as midday sunshine brightened the deck, Nathan resolved to grasp this chance fate had given him, to become the father he never knew he could be, and possibly to rekindle the love he once walked away from. Midday arrived on the ship, and the atmosphere was buzzing with vacation energy. Groups of passengers lounged on the family pool deck where cheerful music played and kids darted around squealing with excitement. Brightly colored umbrellas, inflatables, and the glint of sunshine on turquoise water set a vivid, carefree scene. Nathan paused at the top of the stairs overlooking the family pool area. He felt a slight twinge of nerves. He had never ventured into this part of the ship's activities before. Yet now, everything he saw triggered a ripple of wonder. Could this really be his world too? A father among other parents laughing as they taught their toddlers to splash and kick in the shallows? He spotted Alicia leaning against a lounge chair, gently rocking one of the twins, Lily, while Lucas, tucked in a lightweight baby carrier, gazed at the swirling pool water. Alicia looked up at that moment and locked eyes with Nathan. A cautious smile tugged at her lips, and he returned it, descending the steps and weaving through scattered towels and families to reach her side. "Hey," he said, noticing Alicia wore a loose, casual wrap over a simple swimsuit, a far cry from the professional dresses she used to wear at the office where she once interned back when they first met. The change reminded him of how drastically their lives had evolved. "Hey," she answered, helping Lily settle into a more comfortable position. Her gaze flicked over his shoulder to the other families around them. "They have a kids' wading pool over there and a little play area for toddlers on the other side, but mine aren't quite walking yet, so—" Her eyes returned to Nathan, hesitant. "You can sit if you like." He took the seat next to her, trying not to be too obvious in his curiosity. "How has your day been?" Alicia shrugged lightly. "Busy, the usual, feeding, changing diapers, trying to get them to nap. Also scouted out the buffet for baby-friendly food." "You?" He let out a breath. "I'd planned on working remotely during this trip. Emails, calls, the usual," he admitted. "But my phone's still off from last night, and I'm not rushing to turn it back on." She gave a small, understanding nod. The old Nathan would have spent this entire vacation at a laptop. He managed a sheepish grin. The old Nathan was very short-sighted. They fell quiet, the ambient noise of giggling children and pop music filling the air. A nearby cruise staff member in a bright polo shirt led a group of parents and toddlers through a sing-along. The melody, childish and playful, was a stark contrast to the weighty emotions swirling between Nathan and Alicia. He finally worked up the courage to ask, "What's your everyday routine like with them?" She blinked, seemingly surprised by the question. "Well," she said, voice low, "it's a handful, as you'd imagine with twins. Morning feeds around 6 a.m., then some playtime, a morning nap if I'm lucky. I try to squeeze in remote work whenever they sleep, which isn't always predictable. Then lunch, more play, sometimes a walk to the park if I'm at home. By evening it's dinner, baths, bedtime. If one wakes up in the middle of the night crying, the other usually follows. I manage, but I won't lie. Some days I'm running on fumes." Nathan felt an ache in his chest as he pictured her juggling all of that alone. "That's intense. I wish I'd known. I could have helped or—" Alicia pursed her lips. "But you didn't know, and I was scared to tell you. We can't change that. Let's focus on now." Her words, though gentle, carried a trace of residual hurt. Nathan nodded. "Right," he agreed softly. "Well, I'm here now. Maybe I can start helping." She seemed reluctant to believe him at first, but then Lily wriggled in her arms, letting out a small cry. Alicia tucked the baby closer. "Would you like to hold her for a minute?" Nathan's heart thumped. "Yes," he whispered, carefully extending his arms. Alicia guided Lily toward him, ensuring the baby's head was well supported. Nathan felt a tiny surge of adrenaline as he cradled his daughter. His daughter. The realization pulsed through him like a warm current. Lily blinked curiously at him, her lips forming a small O, as though evaluating this newcomer. Nathan chuckled softly, his eyes shining. He rocked her gently the way he'd seen Alicia do. Alicia observed the scene with an unreadable expression. Perhaps she was mentally cataloging how easily, or awkwardly, he assumed the role of dad. "She likes movement," Alicia said quietly. "If you sway side to side, it usually calms her." Nathan obliged, swaying gently. Lily's curious fussing eased, and soon she relaxed against him, one tiny hand grasping the fabric of his shirt. Nathan's breath caught at the innocence of that small gesture. Just then, Lucas let out a soft babble from the carrier, as though he wanted attention too. Alicia shifted to give the boy a playful tickle on his tummy. Yes, you'll get your turn soon," she cooed. Nathan observed their dynamic, a pang of envy mixed with admiration. Alicia was so in tune with them, she knew their cues, their preferences, every small comfort. He longed to bridge that gap somehow. In the midst of this tender moment, another couple passed by with their little girl, waving. The man gave an encouraging nod to Nathan, and the woman, smiling at Lily's face, said, "They're precious at this age, aren't they?" Nathan nodded, managing a polite smile. "They sure are." Alicia offered a polite greeting, then turned back to Nathan. "People on family cruises can be really friendly," she remarked. "It's nice not feeling judged if the baby cries or if they spill something. Everyone's in the same boat, literally." He gave a slight laugh. "I'm quickly learning how different this environment is from boardrooms and investor meetings." They settled into a silence, the weight of unspoken questions lingering. Was there a future for them as a family? Did Alicia even want him around long-term, or just in some partial capacity? How could he convince her that he could truly balance fatherhood with his high-stakes career? As if sensing his thoughts, she cleared her throat. "You mentioned last night that your doctor warned you to slow down. Are you really prepared to do that? Because these two, they're not just a nice distraction. They need stability." He pressed his lips together, carefully shifting Lily in his arms. "I know," he said, looking down at his daughter's sleepy expression. "And I'm serious about changing. If you let me, I'd like to spend the rest of this cruise proving I can be there for them, and for you. We can figure out the bigger details once we're back on land, but I want to earn your trust." She studied him, her eyes flickering with old memories. Once upon a time she'd trusted him wholeheartedly, when she was that girl who believed in his potential, cheering for him as he rose. But circumstances, and maybe his own ambition, had made him forget about the gentle heart he was leaving behind. "I'm open to seeing how things go," she said, careful. "But it's not just my approval you need. It's theirs," she added with a soft, almost teasing nod at Lily and Lucas. Nathan exhaled shakily, nodding. "I understand." They spent the next hour in relatively calm domesticity. Alicia guided him through giving Lucas a small bottle, explaining how to angle it properly, when to pause to burp him. Nathan followed her instructions meticulously, feeling clumsy but determined. Despite his inexperience, a certain warmth filled his chest each time Lucas's tiny eyes focused on him. Afterward, the twins dozed off, lulled by the gentle motion of the ship and the mild sun. Alicia tucked them into a double stroller she'd brought, ensuring they were shaded. "I usually take a walk around the deck when they nap. It helps them sleep longer," she said. Nathan stood. "Could I join you?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Sure." They strolled side by side, the midday sun dancing on the water's surface. Quietly, Alicia told him bits about the twins' personalities, how Lily was often more inquisitive and vocal, while Lucas tended to be serene but liked to cling to his comfort items. "There were times," she confessed, her gaze on the horizon, "when I sat up late at night with both of them crying, and I'd imagine what it would be like if you were there. Not just to help calm them, but to share in the wonder of their first smiles, their first coos." Nathan swallowed past a lump in his throat. "I can't give you back that lost time," he said softly, "but I promise I'll do everything in my power to make sure none of us miss out again." She gave a slight nod, her expression a mix of lingering vulnerability and fragile hope. They continued circling the deck, lulled by the ocean breeze. Overhead, a seabird glided in a lazy arc, and below, the ship's wake spread out in shimmering lines. At one point they paused by a railing where the view was especially stunning, an endless horizon meeting an endless sky. Without speaking, they stood side by side, the stroller safely locked. Alicia closed her eyes briefly, letting the wind tousle her hair. Nathan fought the urge to slip an arm around her waist to recapture the closeness they once shared. Instead, he gently brushed her shoulder with his fingertips, a tentative gesture that conveyed more than words could. She opened her eyes, glancing at his hand. But instead of pulling away, she offered the smallest nod of acknowledgement, as though saying, "Yes, we can try to heal." Those minutes felt suspended in time, a chance for both of them to breathe, to contemplate the magnitude of what they were stepping into. The twins, asleep in their stroller, were unaware of the quiet shift happening in their parents' hearts. But perhaps, on some deeper level, the family was slowly, carefully beginning to form. Eventually, they resumed walking. Alicia mentioned the twins would likely wake soon, ready for another meal. Nathan offered to help again, and she didn't refuse. "You can meet us at the buffet area in about half an hour," she suggested, "if you're up for more baby duties." He flashed a grateful, determined smile. "I'll be there." And as they parted, Alicia taking the stroller toward the elevators, Nathan back to his suite to freshen up, he felt more certain than ever that this trip was no accident. Life, fate, or some cosmic alignment had placed them on this boat together to rewrite their family's story. It wouldn't be easy. But as the ship continued onward, so did Nathan's resolve. There was no turning away from fatherhood or from Alicia, now that he'd glimpsed the depth of what he might have missed. A warm glow filtered through the windows of the ship's buffet restaurant, bathing the tables in amber as late afternoon approached. Some guests were already queuing with plates, eyes scanning the rows of international dishes laid out in polished serving stations. Others settled at tables by large windows, admiring the view of endless ocean while savoring leisurely lunches. Nathan arrived a few minutes early. He took a moment to glance around, mentally rehearsing how he'd handle the next round of baby care. For years, he'd aced presentations to boards of directors, closed deals with billion-dollar contracts, and dazzled crowds with his business acumen. Yet, the prospect of bottle-feeding two hungry 10-month-olds in a public setting unsettled him in a way no corporate challenge ever had. To ground himself, he stepped over to a beverage station and grabbed a glass of cold water. Nearby, a young father was entertaining his toddler with silly faces, earning shrieks of delight. The father winked playfully at Nathan as he passed, and Nathan flashed a polite grin, though inside he couldn't help feeling a pang of envy at how natural that man seemed. A bright Nathan cut across his thoughts. He turned to see Alicia maneuvering the double stroller through the buffet's entrance. Lily, wide awake, was batting at a hanging toy shaped like a star, while Lucas stared around, his gaze snagging on every flash of color or movement. Despite the baggage, the baby bag, the stroller, the general chaos, Alicia wore a calm, practiced expression. Nathan hurried over to help. "Let me," he offered, resting a hand on the stroller's handle. Alicia nodded, stepping aside. "They're both awake and probably ready for some soft solids or mashed veggies, but we can start with fruit if the lines aren't too long." She peered at the counters. "I see a tropical fruit section near those pastries." Carefully, they guided the stroller to a quiet corner table next to one of the large windows. Along the way, the babies attracted smiles and coos from passers-by. Lily responded by flailing her little arms, while Lucas watched everyone with shy curiosity. They parked the stroller, and Alicia knelt to unclasp Lily from her seat. "Could you set up a high chair?" she asked, glancing at Nathan. He scanned the restaurant and quickly found where the staff kept a few high chairs stacked near the wall. One had an attached tray with a small toy. Perfect. He grabbed it and positioned it beside Alicia, double-checking the buckle like he'd seen parents do. "There," Nathan said, patting the seat. "Ready." Alicia placed Lily into the high chair, securing the straps. Lucas stayed momentarily in the stroller, sucking on a pacifier, which bobbed rhythmically between his lips. "Let's pick out some food," Alicia suggested, straightening. "I'll take Lily with me. Keep an eye on her in the high chair line. Could you watch Lucas for a second?" "Of course," Nathan replied, a bit too quickly, eager to reassure her. He pulled a seat close to the stroller so Lucas was right by him. The infant gazed up, big eyes reflecting the overhead lights. For a moment, father and son studied each other. Almost unconsciously, Nathan reached for the baby's tiny hand, letting Lucas wrap those miniature fingers around his own. The sensation triggered a wave of tenderness so forceful that he was momentarily speechless. He realized, in that moment, that he was more than a caretaker or a babysitter. This little boy was his child, someone who might look to him for protection, comfort, laughter, guidance. The magnitude of that responsibility mixed with an unexpected sweetness, almost like a pang in his heart. Nearby, Alicia had joined a short queue, Lily perched on her hip. The baby babbled excitedly at the array of colorful fruit platters and the hustle of the buffet staff. Alicia, casting a quick glance back, caught Nathan's eye. In that brief look, a silent understanding passed between them. Acknowledgement that they were in this together now, however tentative it might be. Nathan gave a thumbs up, mouthing, "All good," though he wasn't entirely sure if Alicia could read his lips from that distance. Regardless, she offered a small, grateful smile before turning back to the fruit station. Lucas started squirming, perhaps sensing that his sister had gone off without him. Nathan leaned forward, speaking softly. "Hey, buddy. Mom's just getting you something tasty. She'll be back soon." He realized the idea of calling Alicia Mom felt both familiar and strangely new. For the last couple of years, she had been a memory he tried not to dwell on, a bittersweet thought from a simpler time. Now, here she was in daily conversation, the mother of his twins. Life had spun in an entirely different orbit than he could have imagined. Across the restaurant, the swirl of vacation chatter grew. A small group of older women teased each other about trying decadent desserts. A couple of teenage siblings bickered over who got the last slice of some fruit tart. The steady hum of relaxed, jovial energy surrounded them. In a small way, it comforted Nathan. He inhaled the aroma of fresh pineapple and bread rolls drifting from the buffet. Soon, Alicia navigated back, balancing a tray laden with small bowls of diced fruit, mango, papaya, banana slices, plus a few baby spoons. Lily was wide-eyed, seemingly enthralled by all the bright colors. "Found some good options," Alicia said, placing the tray on the table. "We'll see what they like. They've tried most of these at home, but Lily's unpredictable. Some days she devours mango, other days she rejects it." Nathan nodded, lifting Lucas from the stroller so he could join them. "Let's do it," he said lightly. They settled into a small routine. Alicia carefully mashed fruit in a bowl, offered a spoonful to Lily, who squealed with delight or scrunched her face depending on the flavor. Meanwhile, Nathan attempted to feed Lucas with another small spoon. The baby initially wriggled in his arms, more fascinated by the surroundings than the food. "Focus, buddy," Nathan joked softly, coaxing Lucas to open his mouth for a nibble of banana. To his relief, the little one eventually took it, pursing his lips as if contemplating the taste. "Good?" Nathan asked, as though waiting for an official verdict. Lucas babbled, drooling a bit. Alicia laughed quietly. "Looks like you've passed the first test." Nathan wiped a bit of banana from Lucas's chin, feeling oddly proud. For all the prestige he commanded in the corporate world, this moment, feeding an infant, felt more impactful than any board meeting he'd led. They continued like that for a while, exchanging tips. Alicia explaining how to angle the spoon, Nathan reciting silly encouragements in a gentle voice. Lily began grabbing at the spoon to feed herself, resulting in an enthusiastic but messy fiasco. Banana and mashed papaya got on the high chair tray, on Lily's fingers, and suspiciously in her hair. Alicia sighed with a patient smile. "Guess she wants to try self-feeding," she said. "Well, it's definitely a hands-on approach," Nathan mused, dabbing a napkin across Lily's sticky cheeks. A middle-aged couple at a neighboring table observed them with a warm grin. The man leaned over, saying, "You two are doing great. We've been there. Twins can be a handful, but they're such a blessing." Alicia nodded politely. "Thank you," she responded, her cheeks pinking slightly. Nathan managed a grateful smile, too. Despite the small compliment from strangers, he felt a pang of realization. These people saw them as a family, a father, mother, and their toddlers. And in truth, that was exactly what they were, or at least what they might become if they navigated this road well. Once the babies had eaten their fill, which included them smearing more than actually swallowing, Alicia carefully wiped them down. "Let's take them to wash up," she suggested, glancing at Nathan for assistance. They rolled the stroller to a quieter corner of the buffet, where there was a family-friendly wash area. Alicia guided Lily out of the high chair, while Nathan scooped Lucas from the table. Together they carried the twins into the small but efficiently designed wash space, complete with lowered sinks and step stools for older kids. Alicia and Nathan made a coordinated, if slightly clumsy, dance of rinsing sticky hands, patting them dry with soft paper towels, and double-checking for leftover fruit bits lodged in tiny fists. At one point, Lily grabbed Nathan's finger, refusing to let go when he tried to gently free it from the faucet stream. Alicia softly laughed. "She's definitely determined." "She gets that from her mother," Nathan quipped, then realized the intimacy of that statement. It carried nostalgia, referencing the Alicia he once knew, spunky, unafraid to speak her mind. Her gaze flicked up, but instead of tension, a small, thoughtful smile brushed her lips. The moment lingered, overshadowed only by Lucas letting out a demanding cry, wanting attention, or perhaps disliking how the water splashed near his arm. In short order, they managed to clean and calm both babies. Then, stepping out of the wash area, they rejoined the bustle of the buffet, though it had thinned a bit after the lunch rush. Do we want dessert?" Alicia asked, readjusting Lily on her hip. "Or maybe we should get them down for a nap." Nathan tilted his head, noticing faint shadows under Alicia's eyes. Even though she managed it gracefully, he could tell she was tired. "Maybe let's skip dessert," he suggested, glancing at the stroller's occupant. "They've had enough excitement." Alicia nodded, switching Lily's weight to her other side. "I can drop them off in my cabin for a nap. Usually, if I stay there with them, they'll rest for a while." Nathan paused, then offered tentatively, "Could I join you? Just to help? Or even to be around them for a bit more?" She studied him, clearly weighing the implications. "Sure," she said after a pause. "You can sit in the little living area of my suite. If they doze off, we can talk, or you could read or something." It wasn't exactly an enthusiastic invitation, but it wasn't a rejection either. Nathan saw it as progress. "Thank you," he replied softly. "I'd like that." They made their way to the elevator. Along the way, multiple staff members greeted them cheerily, offering help or simply cooing at the twins. It was almost comical, the shift from how people used to address him with stiff deference, "Sir? Mr. Parker?" to how easily they now approached him with a casual smile, seeing him as a father figure with a family in tow rather than a business mogul. And for once, Nathan was okay with it, even relieved. At Alicia's suite, he was struck by how cozy it felt compared to his own sleek, spacious suite. Toys lined one corner of the living room, a baby mat with colorful patterns lay on the floor, and a half-finished pack of diapers peeked out from beneath a side table. The faint scent of baby lotion lingered in the air. It was a warm, lived-in space that breathed comfort, not efficiency. "Give me a minute," Alicia said, carrying Lily into the bedroom. The baby let out a drowsy whine, probably needing a few gentle pats to settle. Meanwhile, Lucas dozed in the stroller, but Alicia soon scooped him up too and brought him to join Lily. Nathan hovered uncertainly by the threshold, deciding not to crowd the bedroom. He heard soft murmurs of Alicia's calming voice, punctuated by the hush of the twins fussing. Then, after a few minutes, Alicia emerged, carefully pulling the door halfway shut. "They're drifting off," she whispered, stepping into the living area. Nathan nodded, lowering his voice. "You want me to keep it down?" She ran a hand through her hair. "Yeah, though they can sleep through some noise. I'm just going to keep an ear out." They settled on the small sofa. Alicia tucked a stray blanket away, making room. A mild awkwardness descended. No babies to distract them now, no feeding or cleaning tasks to orchestrate. It was just the two of them, in close proximity, with years of unresolved emotions swirling beneath the surface. Nathan fiddled with his hands before speaking. "Thank you for letting me join you. I didn't want to leave. Feels like every hour with them is precious." Her expression softened. "They are precious," she echoed, exhaling. "Nathan, we can't solve everything in one conversation, but maybe it's time we address the biggest question. Where do we go from here? I mean, the cruise will end in a few days." He nodded, crossing his arms lightly as if steeling himself for a weighty topic. "I know. And after that, I'm supposed to return to my offices and act like nothing's changed?" A shake of his head. "Impossible. I want—" He paused, carefully choosing words. "I want a real role in their lives, Alicia. And if it's not too late, I'd like to salvage whatever we once had." Her lips parted in a silent exhale. "It's complicated," she murmured. "I have a life too, my job, the place I rent. and I'm not about to move into some glossy penthouse to be your afterthought." He leaned forward, voice earnest. "They wouldn't be. You wouldn't be. All this time I was chasing success, and yeah, maybe I got it, but at a huge cost. Now I see that cost includes everything that truly matters. I can restructure my schedule. Heck, I might even designate a secondary management team to lighten my load. Let me prove I can be different." Her brow furrowed. "Words are easy, Nathan. You used to say you'd make time for me, for us. But then there were always more deals, more expansions." "I know," he said, subdued. "I know I have to show, not just tell. I can't force you to believe me. But I hope for the twins' sake you'll let me try. Because I'm not the same person who walked away before." Alicia studied him in the hush that followed. The oceanic hum of the ship's engines and the gentle rocking made a subtle background rhythm. Finally she spoke, voice measured yet soft. "I'm willing to see how you handle these next few days, but I won't promise big decisions right now. Let's just keep the lines open. We'll figure out a way for you to visit regularly if you mean it." He nodded, relief flickering in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. They let the conversation drift into calmer topics, reminiscing about the day they first met in an internship program years back, how they'd bonded over the pressure of deadlines and late-night takeout. Alicia admitted she sometimes watched old videos on her phone from those days, noticing how carefree they looked in those short clips. Nathan admitted he'd tried erasing those memories for a while, too consumed by the next big corporate victory to dwell on what he'd lost. Before long, a muffled whimper from the bedroom signaled that at least one of the twins was stirring. Alicia excused herself to check, and Nathan stood as well, uncertain if he should follow. She gave a tiny nod, so he trailed behind. Inside the room, the lights were dimmed. Lily fussed in her portable crib, face scrunching in that warning of a full-scale baby meltdown. Alicia gently lifted the baby, rocking her slowly. Nathan peered over her shoulder, watching Lily's expression ease a fraction. The softness of the scene, mother calming her child, father anxious to help, felt surreal, especially as Alicia gave him a look that said, "Do you want to try?" Tentatively, Nathan stretched out his arms. Alicia passed Lily over, showing him the best way to nestle her. The baby's little body was warm, her breath ragged with leftover sniffles from crying. Nathan carefully swayed from side to side, remembering what Alicia had taught him. After a few moments, Lily relaxed, eyelids drooping. Alicia placed a gentle hand on the small of Nathan's back. Whether it was an automatic reassurance or a sign of renewed closeness, he didn't know. But that slight contact made something inside him tighten with emotion. He closed his eyes, inhaling the soft baby scent that was part powder, part that indefinable newness of life. The moment stretched beautifully, the two parents side by side, coaxing their child back to rest. Even Lucas snoozed peacefully in his crib. For a split second, they felt like a functioning family, united by the hush of a child's breathing rather than any formal vow or carefully planned schedule. When Lily finally fell into a deeper sleep, Alicia carefully guided her back into the crib. "We should let them rest. Let's go back to the living area." Nathan nodded, stepping out quietly. They returned to the couch where Alicia perched at the edge, weary but calm. Nathan settled next to her. An unspoken understanding hovered in the air, yet neither moved to break the moment with words. In the quiet, Alicia eventually murmured, "Maybe we can have dinner together tonight. There's a more casual grill on the upper deck, less fancy than those formal restaurants, so the twins can come without stares if they fuss." Nathan's eyes lit up. "That'd be great. I'll meet you there, or come help you bring them up, whichever you prefer." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "Meet me here first, around 6. We'll go together." He dipped his head in a nod, warmth flooding his chest. 6 it is. They both recognized that their life story wouldn't be neatly resolved on a single cruise. Yet with each small acceptance, like sharing a meal, soothing a baby, or trusting each other's intentions, they were building something new. Whether it was a second chance at love or simply a cooperative path for co-parenting, they weren't certain. But amid the soothing lull of the ship's gentle sway, they let themselves hope that maybe, just maybe, they could find both. By early evening, the ship had reached a tranquil stretch of ocean. The sky was tinged with shades of lavender and gold as the sun began its gradual descent. Passengers could be seen dressing up for dinner or strolling on the open deck to take in the breathtaking views. Soft jazz music wafted through the corridors, blending with the distant hum of conversation. At precisely 6, Nathan knocked on the door of Alicia's suite, feeling a gentle flutter in his stomach. He could hear faint baby babble from inside, followed by Alicia's muffled, "1 second." A heartbeat later, she swung the door open, balancing Lucas on her hip. "Come on in," she greeted, catching her breath. "We're still getting sorted." Nathan stepped inside, carefully closing the door behind him. The room buzzed with the mild chaos of a parent trying to prepare 2 infants for an evening out. A half-open suitcase of baby clothes on the couch, a small collection of bibs draped over a chair, and Alicia's neatly folded outfit laid out on a table. Lily was in the portable crib, rolling onto her tummy and squealing at a plush toy. Nathan's tie felt suddenly too formal, so he loosened it, remembering that Alicia had mentioned a casual grill. "Need a hand?" he offered, scanning the room. Alicia hoisted Lucas higher, smiling wryly. "I've got this one, but maybe you can help Lily into her clean onesie? I set it by her crib." He followed her gesture to find a tiny striped onesie. "Sure," he said, walking over to Lily. The baby looked up at him, mouth parted in a curious half-smile. Gently, Nathan lifted her out, supporting her head and back. Despite his limited experience, he was learning fast. Placing Lily on the bed, he reached for the onesie. "All right, sweetheart, let's get you dressed." He slipped her small arms through, carefully pulled the garment over her head, and fumbled a bit with the snaps. Lily kicked excitedly, making the task both endearing and challenging. Alicia quietly observed from across the room. "Not bad," she remarked once Nathan had the last snap fastened. "You're picking it up pretty quickly." He gave a self-conscious shrug, feeling a flash of pride. "Every time I manage not to pinch her while snapping, I call it a victory." She laughed softly. "You'll be an expert in no time." Then, turning to Lucas, she pressed a light kiss to his hair before settling him into a smaller baby carrier strapped across her front. Once he was secure, she double-checked the harness. "Ready to go find dinner?" Nathan lifted Lily into his arms, one hand steady under her bottom, the other supporting her back. "Let's do it." They made their way down the corridor, joined by other families carrying toddlers or herding slightly older children. The elevator ride up was crowded, but friendly chatter bounced among passengers, exchanging tidbits about the day's shore excursions or praising the ship's entertainment. Exiting onto the deck where the casual grill was located, they were greeted by a lively scene. Strings of lights crisscrossed overhead, swaying in the breeze. Small tables dotted the area, some with parasols, others open to the sky. The aroma of burgers, grilled seafood, and roasted vegetables filled the air. A light acoustic band played gentle tunes near one corner, adding a warm, festive vibe. Alicia scanned the space, her eyes landing on a free table near a railing. "Over there," she said, steering the stroller that contained Lily, who had now been moved from Nathan's arms into the stroller for the walk. Lucas slept peacefully in the carrier on Alicia's chest, lulled by her warmth. Upon seating themselves, a cheerful waiter approached. "Good evening. Can I get you anything to drink first? We have fruit juices, mocktails, beer, wine, anything you like." Alicia glanced at Nathan, silently inviting him to choose, but he answered simply, "I'll take a sparkling water, please." She gave a nod. "Same for me. And do you have a small cup of plain mashed sweet potato or any soft veggie?" "We have little ones," she explained, indicating Lily and Lucas. Absolutely, the waiter replied, jotting it down. I'll bring that with your drinks. Once he was gone, Alicia carefully shifted in her seat, ensuring Lucas was comfortable. Nathan leaned over the stroller to check on Lily, who was contently gnawing on a small teething toy. You're not drinking? Alicia asked, curiosity in her tone. He shook his head. I figured I'd like to stay clear-headed for baby duties, and there's also my doctor's recommendation to ease off stress, caffeine, alcohol, all of it for a bit. He paused, then admitted, plus, I'm a little on edge, to be honest. I want to keep my focus right here. Alicia's features softened. I appreciate that. They soon placed their main meal orders. He chose grilled salmon and veggies. She opted for a chicken wrap and a side of fries that she jokingly said was for sanity. As they waited, the evening sky dimmed to deeper purples, stars peeking out overhead. The gentle acoustic music hummed in the background, creating a surprisingly cozy ambiance for a bustling family-friendly eatery on a massive ship. You know, Alicia mused, lightly stroking Lucas's back, I never thought I'd do a cruise with babies this young. It's been interesting. Trying to keep a routine here is tough, but it's also a nice change of scenery. Nathan nodded, remembering her earlier confession that this trip was her first real break in a long time. I can imagine. Does it help, though, just not being cooped up at home with the day-to-day? She glanced out at the darkening horizon. Yes and no. Part of me relaxes, seeing the ocean and not having to worry about cooking or cleaning. But another part feels out of my comfort zone. No safety net. I keep thinking, what if one of them gets sick, or I forget something important in the cabin? He rested his arms on the table, leaning in. I can be your safety net for the rest of this cruise if you'll let me. The words felt a bit grand in his own ears, but he meant them sincerely. Alicia studied him, a slight tremor in her exhale. I'd like that, she said after a moment. The waiter returned with their drinks and Lily's mashed sweet potato. Alicia set it on the table, letting the steam dissipate. Meanwhile, she gently eased Lucas out of the carrier. He was stirring, and placed him in Nathan's arms. The baby blinked sleepily, adjusting to the change in position. You can feed him if he's up to it, she offered to Nathan, handing him a soft-tipped spoon. Nathan shifted Lucas so the baby rested on his knee, then brought the spoon near Lucas's mouth. The infant sniffed, pursed his lips, and after a moment's hesitation, opened his mouth to taste the sweet potato. That's it, buddy, Nathan coaxed, the corners of his mouth lifting in an encouraging smile. Watching them, Alicia couldn't hide a faint look of wonder. Nathan caught her expression and gently murmured, What? She shook her head, eyes glistening in the warm deck lights. It's just, moments like this used to fill my imagination when they were newborns. I'd think, maybe one day Nathan will be feeding them, smiling like that. And now it's real. He paused mid-spoonful, feeling a flash of sorrow for all the weeks and months he'd missed. I'm sorry, he whispered, his gaze locked on hers. I wish I had been there. Her throat bobbed. I wish you had too, she responded, voice laden with old hurt, but her features gentled. We're here now. Maybe that counts for something. He carefully scooped another bit of sweet potato for Lucas. We'll make up for lost time. The evening slipped into a warm, intimate rhythm. They alternated feeding Lucas and Lily, the latter sometimes spitting out spoonfuls in protest, but eventually accepting them with funny squeals. Alicia snapped a quick photo with her phone, Lily smearing sweet potato across her cheek while Nathan laughed at her antics. It felt light-hearted and tender, like an ordinary family dinner scene one might see in a cozy home, rather than on an opulent cruise ship. When their own meals arrived, Alicia and Nathan took turns eating and tending to the twins. The conversation ebbed and flowed, talking about each child's personality, Alicia sharing anecdotes about Lily's early teething woes or Lucas's first attempts at crawling. Nathan soaked up every detail, storing them away as if they were priceless secrets. Midway through the meal, a sudden roll of thunder rumbled in the distance. Heads turned and people murmured, pointing to dark clouds forming on the far horizon. "Looks like a storm might catch up with us," Alicia noted, brow creasing. Nathan scanned the horizon. The forecast mentioned possible showers, but hopefully it won't be too rough. A gust of wind ruffled the table linens, prompting a few nearby guests to secure their plates. The acoustic band quietly packed up equipment, not wanting to risk the instruments if rain began. Sure enough, tiny droplets soon pattered onto the deck. The staff quickly moved to lower umbrellas and suggest that families with small children relocate to a sheltered dining area. Nathan rose, Lily in his arms this time. "We better move. Don't want them getting soaked." Alicia, who had secured Lucas back in the carrier, nodded. She grabbed her wrap, and they gathered their plates. The ship's crew guided them to a semi-indoor space with large windows so they could still glimpse the sea. Despite the mild commotion, the transition was smooth. Soon they were settled at a new table, the rain drumming softly on the windows. Lily fussed a bit, perhaps startled by the shifting environment. Nathan tried swaying her in a gentle bounce. Alicia rubbed Lucas's back, who started whimpering in sympathy with his sister. Another staff member approached, offering a warm smile. "We have a little corner with rocking chairs if you'd like to calm them," she suggested. "That might help," Alicia agreed, exchanging a glance with Nathan. They moved to a nook designed for families, a small area with a couple of padded rocking chairs and subdued lighting. Alicia took Lucas, while Nathan continued comforting Lily. In the background, the clatter of dishes and the murmur of conversation softened into a distant hum. The lights flickered once, indicating the ship's crew was adjusting power due to the shifting weather. Outside the windows, lightning illuminated the far-off cloud bank. A hush fell over the families in this corner, each parent cradling a child, lulling them with soft reassurances. For Alicia and Nathan, the storm outside seemed to mirror the tumult of their own emotions, winds of change, a swirl of hopes and fears. But in that gentle rocking, each of them holding one twin, it felt oddly safe. They were together, shielding their children from the literal and metaphorical storms. Finally, as Lucas and Lily relaxed into droopy-eyed contentment, Alicia shot Nathan a tentative smile. "Thank you," she murmured. He arched a curious brow. "For what?" She paused, brushing a strand of hair off her face. "For being here. Not just physically, but actually present. I see it in how you look at them, how you handle Lily's fussiness. You're all in." Nathan's chest constricted with a swell of emotion. "I am," he promised, voice quiet but firm. A near-silent flash of lightning lit the sky, and distant thunder followed. The babies, however, remained unperturbed in their parents' arms. Alicia blinked back a hint of tears. "Good," she whispered, "because that's what we need." The next quarter hour was spent in a near dreamlike state, 2 adults quietly rocking, 2 infants drifting between dozing and half awake, a gentle storm tapping on the windows. Other families came and went, but for Alicia and Nathan, time stood still. Eventually, the rain eased. Staff announced that the weather was moving past quickly and some evening activities would resume. Alicia and Nathan decided it was best to return to her cabin rather than risk more disruption. Walking side by side, they made their way through the corridors, bypassing the main lounges where adult entertainment was beginning, and arrived at her door. Alicia gently unstrapped Lucas. "I think they might stay asleep if we're careful." Nathan placed a dozing Lily in the stroller, then turned to Alicia. "If you need anything, a hand with bedtime, I can stay." Her eyes flickered with hesitation, then gratitude. "I'll manage bedtime, but you can come by tomorrow morning? Maybe we can try breakfast together again?" He tried not to appear too disappointed, offering a small smile instead. "Sure, that'd be great. I'll see you 8, 9? "Let's say 8, she replied, adjusting the carrier's straps in her hand. "They're early risers." With that, Nathan nodded. "All right. Sleep well, Alicia." She offered a soft nod, her gaze lingering on him. "You too, Nathan." He stepped away slowly, the door closing gently behind him. The short walk back to his own suite felt surreal, the events of the evening dancing in his mind. He replayed each moment, Lily's tiny hand clutching his collar during the storm, Lucas's trusting gaze as he fed him, and Alicia's quiet admission of gratitude. Inside his empty, opulent cabin, he let out a long exhale. For a fleeting moment, he imagined what it would be like if they all returned here together, if the twins scurried around this spacious area, if Alicia settled on the sofa talking to him about her day. The image formed so vividly that his heart clenched at the thought of what he'd once lost and what he might still gain. He changed into comfortable clothes, finally turning on his phone to check messages. His inbox was flooded. Urgent memos, meeting requests, investor concerns. Yet, as he scanned them, he realized that nothing felt quite as urgent as the commitment he'd made to Alicia and the twins. Work could wait a little longer. Glancing at his reflection in the mirror, he allowed himself a small, determined smile. This cruise, which was originally meant for rest, had become a tipping point in his life's direction. And if the gentle storm earlier was any sign, he was willing to weather whatever it took to hold on to this second chance. A crisp morning light filtered through the glass panes of the corridor windows, reflecting off the ocean's surface and illuminating every hallway in a gentle golden hue. Passengers yawned their way to breakfast stations, and staff greeted them with bright smiles, offering directions to the day's excursions. The ship's daily newsletter, slipped under each cabin door at dawn, announced clear skies and mild weather ahead. Most people read that and smiled, relieved that the previous night's brief storm had passed. Nathan, however, had one focus, reaching Alicia's suite by 8 to join her and the twins for breakfast. Last night's memories lingered like a warm promise. Feeding Lily, rocking Lucas, sharing quiet confidences with Alicia. He found himself almost eager to dive into that routine again, as though it was a life he should have been living all along. He drew a calming breath before knocking softly. The door opened, revealing Alicia with a slightly harried expression. She was dressed in a comfortable sweater and casual pants, hair pulled into a hasty ponytail. A faint sheen of fatigue dulled her eyes, but she offered a welcoming nod. "Morning," she said. "Morning." He spotted Lucas seated in a portable baby seat on the floor, gnawing on a rubber toy, while Lily fussed from a small bouncer. "Everything okay?" Nathan asked, stepping inside and closing the door gently. Alicia huffed a small laugh. "Yes, just a typical hectic morning with 2 little ones. Lucas woke up extra early, and Lily's been a bit fussy. I was about to get them both dressed for breakfast, but time's slipping away." Nathan shrugged off his light jacket, placing it on a nearby chair. "I can help. Which one do you want me to handle?" "Could you dress Lily?" She pointed to a small stack of baby clothes on the bed. "I picked out a comfy romper. There's a matching headband, but she might fight it." He nodded, moving to scoop Lily from the bouncer. The baby squirmed, her tiny face pulled into a half pout as though she hadn't quite woken up on the right side of the crib. "Hey, sweetheart," Nathan murmured, cradling Lily against him. "Rough morning?" Lily made a whimpering sound, pressing her face into his shoulder. Nathan rubbed her back gently, pacing a few steps around the living area to calm her. Meanwhile, Alicia crouched beside Lucas, wiping his mouth with a small cloth and murmuring a playful "silly boy" as he gurgled. Eventually, Lily calmed enough for Nathan to set her down on the bed and slip her arms through the romper. "It's okay," he soothed, even as Lily kicked and squawked. He fumbled with the snaps, remembering his technique from the previous evening. "Almost done. There." He fastened the last snap and exhaled, feeling oddly triumphant. "Whew!" Alicia, giving Lucas a final once-over, smiled from across the suite. You're getting faster. I'm improving under pressure, he joked softly, lifting Lily. Then he eyed the small pink headband that Alicia had mentioned. Should I try, or… Go ahead if you want, she said, tone faintly amused. Nathan attempted to settle the band around Lily's head, only for the baby to immediately tug at it, making a small disgruntled noise. Okay, we won't fight you, he surrendered, gently removing the headband and tossing it aside. No need to dress to impress the buffet crowd, right? Alicia laughed quietly. Exactly. Let's just get them fed. Within a few more minutes, they managed to gather everything. Diaper bag, bibs, a spare change of clothes for each twin, just in case. Alicia strapped Lucas into the double stroller, while Nathan secured Lily. Then they stepped into the corridor. The air buzzed with the shuffle of other families heading to breakfast. Some recognized Alicia and Nathan from prior evenings, offering friendly waves or quick greetings. The buffet was already lively, but they spotted a small table near a window. Alicia maneuvered the stroller skillfully into place, and Nathan grabbed 2 high chairs for the twins. A helpful staff member approached, offering them freshly brewed coffee or tea. Coffee, Alicia said gratefully, a bit of exasperation in her tone. And maybe some fruit juice, too. Nathan nodded. Same here, please. He paused. Actually, I'll do decaf. My doctor's orders, he added with a wry smile. The staff member took note and offered to bring them some baby-friendly food again, porridge or mashed fruit. Alicia thanked her, situating Lucas into one high chair and Lily into the other. Both babies looked around, wide-eyed, taking in the swirl of colors, sounds, and bustling passengers. Nathan smiled at Lucas, who was tapping the tray with a small plastic spoon Alicia handed him. You like the noise, huh? Nathan teased gently. Lucas rewarded him with a big, toothless grin. So, Alicia said, lowering herself into a chair. Any big plans for today? The ship's docking at a port around midday, offering that city tour or beach excursion? Nathan pursed his lips. He recalled reading about the scheduled port call in the morning newsletter. I'm not signed up for any of the official excursions. I was thinking maybe I'd just explore the port at my own pace, or skip it altogether and stay aboard with you if that's an option. She hesitated, tucking a stray hair behind her ear. I promised the twins a stroll along the port market. At least that's my plan, to get off the ship for a bit of fresh air. Maybe buy something local for them. You could come with us. Nathan's face brightened. I'd love that. We can see the local crafts, maybe try some local snacks. I'll help with the stroller if the sidewalks are bumpy. Alicia's relief was palpable. That'd be nice. Wasn't looking forward to juggling them alone in a foreign port. Let's do it. Just then, the waiter returned with steaming bowls of baby porridge. One was plain, the other mixed with soft fruit puree. Alicia tested the temperature before offering it to Lily, who seemed to wriggle in anticipation. Meanwhile, Nathan scooted closer to feed Lucas, carefully blowing on the spoon to cool each small scoop. He marveled again at how quickly this had become natural, sitting across from Alicia, tending to breakfast with the twins. It wasn't glamorous. In fact, it was messy and slow, but it felt deeply fulfilling. Every spoonful that Lucas swallowed, every bit of banana Lily smeared on the high chair tray, filled Nathan with a warmth he could hardly explain. Between spoonfuls, Alicia sipped her coffee, occasionally throwing in a hushed aside about how sleep-deprived she was from last night's random baby wake-ups. Nathan offered to handle any midday feedings so she could nap, but she shook her head. They usually nap on the stroller ride. I'll manage. Conversation drifted to light topics. A new children's show Alicia said the twins liked, some brand of diapers that saved her sanity, and the humorous meltdown Lucas once had when she tried feeding him peas. Nathan listened intently, like a student devouring a crash course on fatherhood he'd never enrolled in before. All right, kiddos, Alicia said eventually, wiping Lily's mouth with a cloth. Let's clean up and head off the ship soon. They left the buffet a short while later, making a quick detour to the suite to gather essentials for the port outing. Alicia packed spare clothes, water, baby snacks, and folded a light sunshade that attached to the stroller. Nathan helped by organizing the diaper bag, ensuring everything was zipped up and accessible. It felt like a small, everyday routine, but to him it was a new window into what his life could be. Finally, they made their way to the gangway, scanning their cruise ID cards as they disembarked. The port's harbor stretched before them, a colorful promenade lined with shops, stalls, and palm trees swaying in a gentle breeze. Beyond that, the city's skyline rose, dotted with vibrant rooftops and historical architecture. They strolled out into the sunshine. The air smelled of sea salt mixed with hints of local street food. Musicians played lively tunes at the harbor entrance, and a swirl of tourists snapped photos of boats and the distant beach. Alicia paused, checking the stroller's shade. "We can start at those craft stalls," she suggested, pointing to a row of small tents. "I want to see if they have anything cute for the twins, maybe a handmade rattle or something." Nathan grinned. "Lead the way." He gently guided the stroller along the cobblestone walkway. The twins peered around, Lily occasionally letting out an excited squeak at the bustle of activity. Lucas clenched his fist around the stroller bar, blinking curiously. At the stalls, Alicia admired hand-carved wooden toys. She lifted a small wooden turtle that rattled softly when shaken. "This is adorable," she said, glancing at Nathan. "Want to let them try?" He nodded, leaning down so Lily could reach out. The baby swatted at the turtle, and it made a soft clacking sound. She giggled, prompting a triumphant laugh from Alicia. "Looks like she approves." "How about we get one for Lucas, too?" Nathan suggested. "Different design, but matching theme." Alicia's eyes warmed. "That's thoughtful." "Sure." They spent a relaxed half-hour browsing. Alicia bought 2 turtles, one light wood, one dark. Nathan insisted on paying. "Don't argue," he said gently when she tried to refuse. "This is the least I can do." "All right, but you have to carry the bag," she relented, smiling a little. They moved on to another section of the market where local fruits and pastries were sold. The twins were starting to fuss, perhaps from the heat or overstimulation, so Alicia found a shady bench. She picked Lucas up from the stroller, rocking him slowly. Nathan crouched by Lily's side, wiping her forehead with a soft cloth, cooing small reassurances. "You kids must be so tired of new sights," he murmured. Lily offered a half-lidded gaze that seemed to say, "I'm trying, Dad, but it's a lot." Alicia pressed a hand to her own forehead. "Want to rest for a bit? We can find a small cafe, get something to drink?" "That sounds good," Nathan replied. "We need to keep them cool." They located a tiny cafe with an awning, set slightly back from the main promenade. The proprietor welcomed them warmly, gesturing to a corner table with enough space for the stroller. The cafe's interior smelled of fresh pastries and aromatic coffee. Settling in, Alicia and Nathan exhaled almost in unison, grateful for the shade. A faint ceiling fan hummed overhead, circulating the midday air. "I'll order a couple of cold fruit drinks," Nathan offered, stepping to the counter. When he returned, he found Alicia cradling a now sleepy Lucas while Lily was dozing in the stroller. It amazed him how quickly the twins transitioned from curiosity to exhaustion. Parenting, he realized, was an endless cycle of hustle and hush. Taking a seat across from Alicia, he placed the 2 chilled mango juices on the table, along with a small bottled water. She sighed in relief, taking a long sip. Good choice." Nathan tried his own juice, a burst of sweet tropical flavor hitting his tongue. Outside, he could hear the murmur of locals chatting in their native language, the whir of distant mopeds, the distant cry of seagulls. "Thank you for coming with me," Alicia said softly, meeting his eyes across the table. "I know it sounds silly, but I've gotten so used to doing everything alone." He leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees, voice quiet. "You don't have to do it alone anymore." She closed her eyes for a beat, inhaling slowly. I'm not used to that idea yet, but it's nice. Nathan reached a hand across the table, tentatively touching hers. She didn't pull away. The moment swelled, layered with unspoken emotions: hope, regret, gratitude. They sat there for a while, sipping their drinks, letting the twins rest in the midday calm. Tourists bustled by outside, occasionally peering in with smiles at the sight of two sleeping babies. But within the small bubble of the cafe, Alicia and Nathan seemed cocooned, forging a new kind of intimacy that, if nurtured, could become the foundation of their renewed connection. Eventually, they noticed the time. The ship's schedule indicated a final boarding call by late afternoon. "We should head back," Alicia said, gently passing Lucas, still asleep, into Nathan's arms so she could fold the stroller. They left the cafe, strolling back toward the ship with the languid pace of parents cautious not to jostle their babies awake. The harbor still bustled, but the heat had grown more intense and shadows lengthened across the cobblestones. When they reached the gangway, Alicia checked her watch. "We made good time. Maybe we can give them a short nap in the cabin before dinner." Nathan's chest fluttered at the thought of another quiet evening together. "Sounds perfect." In that instant, a breeze ruffled his hair, carrying the faint tang of salt water. Nathan glimpsed the horizon, blue waves sparkling under the afternoon sun, golden reflections dancing like scattered jewels. An overwhelming sense of peace washed over him, a feeling that for once he wasn't racing against the clock to close a deal or catch a flight. Instead, he was exactly where he needed to be, fulfilling a far more precious role. Following Alicia up the gangway, he held Lucas snugly, every gentle breath of the infant a reminder of the life he was determined not to miss anymore. And as the ship loomed larger, welcoming them back aboard, Nathan silently promised himself, and his family, that their next steps would be guided by love instead of ambition. Late afternoon sunlight streamed into Alicia's cabin, casting a warm glow on the small living area. In the adjoining bedroom, the twins were sprawled out on the bed for a brief nap, Lucas's arms thrown wide in a gesture of sleepy abandon, Lily curled on her side with a plush turtle toy near her cheek. Alicia quietly closed the bedroom door halfway, then stepped into the living space where Nathan was seated on the couch, absently flipping through the ship's daily activities brochure. "They're finally asleep," she whispered, rubbing her neck. A weary smile softened her features. "If luck is on our side, they'll stay down for a bit." Nathan looked up and returned her smile. He set the brochure aside and stood. "Want to sit?" he offered, gesturing to the couch. "You could rest too." She hesitated, eyes flicking to the door that separated them from the twins. "I need a breather, yes, but I also keep thinking of the million tasks waiting at home, bills, laundry, my freelance deadlines." He gently guided her to the couch, his hand lightly on her elbow. "We're on this boat in the middle of the ocean. Tasks can wait." He paused. "Besides, if it helps, I can do something about those tasks once we're back. I'm not exactly incompetent with laundry or paying bills." Alicia let out a small, amused exhale and sank into the cushions. "I'll hold you to that," she murmured, eyes drifting shut for just a moment. "But for now, I guess it's okay to relax." Nathan sat next to her, the sofa cushion dipping under his weight. A comfortable silence settled, the hush occasionally broken by the low hum of the air conditioning or the distant murmur of corridor chatter outside. For once, neither felt compelled to fill every moment with conversation. During those still minutes, Alicia realized how long it had been since she'd allowed herself genuine, uninterrupted quiet. Her life had become a constant spin of feedings, work obligations, house chores, and stolen hours of sleep. Having someone here, someone who understood and who cared, brought a sense of relief she hadn't anticipated. Eventually, she opened her eyes. "So," she studied Nathan's face. "How are you feeling? I mean, about everything you've discovered on this trip. It's a lot." He let out a reflective breath. overwhelmed, in a good way, and guilty too. I hate that I missed their first months, but I'm also more certain than ever that I want to be here, be part of their lives. His gaze lowered to his hands. I used to think it was normal to be consumed by business. Now I see how empty that can be if you don't have anyone to share it with. Alicia nodded slowly. It's true that you were always ambitious. That was part of what attracted me to you back then. But it's also what drove us apart. He winced, remembering how, at the height of his career expansion, he was practically unreachable. I'm trying to change, he said quietly. But I know it's not a switch I can flip overnight. I have a whole empire that expects me to keep it running. Even now, my phone is probably piling up with messages. As if on cue, a vibration from his pocket startled them both. Nathan fished out his phone, seeing the screen glow with an incoming call. He glanced at Alicia apologetically. Speak of the devil. It's fine, she said, shifting to give him space. You can take it if you need to. He pressed his lips together, checking the caller ID. It was Martin, his second-in-command at Parker Global Holdings. Let me step out for a second. Be right back. Alicia gave a brief nod. Sure. Nathan slipped into the corridor, closing the door softly behind him. He answered with a hushed voice. Martin, I'm in the middle of something. Can it wait? An urgent tone crackled through the phone. Sorry, Nathan, but we have a situation. The board wants an unscheduled online briefing. They're concerned about the London branch merger. There's talk of halting the deal if you don't address some last-minute reservations. Nathan groaned inwardly. That merger had been a cornerstone of his global strategy. Fine, he said. When? Soon as possible, ideally within the next hour or two, Martin replied. We've set up a virtual conference room. You need to give them direct reassurance or this could unravel. They're expecting you to log in from wherever you are. He rubbed his temple. All right, let me see what I can do. I'm on a personal trip, so scheduling might be tricky, but I'll join somehow. Martin's relief was palpable. Appreciate it, Nathan. And sorry to interrupt your vacation. Ending the call, Nathan stared at the phone. A swirl of anxiety simmered in his chest. This was precisely the type of crisis that used to be routine for him. Drop everything and handle business. But now, everything was different. He had Alicia, Lucas, and Lily just a few feet away, part of a new reality he didn't want to sabotage. After a moment of indecision, he took a deep breath and slipped back into the suite. Alicia looked up expectantly from the couch. Everything okay? Nathan exhaled. Work emergency. They need me on a video conference about the London merger. It's time-sensitive. She blinked, her expression guarded. Oh. The single syllable carried layers of meaning, memories of past times he'd chosen work over her. He moved closer, sinking onto the sofa. I don't want to bail on you and the twins, but I do need to handle this. It might take an hour or two. Maybe I can find a quiet spot, like the ship's business lounge or my own suite, to do this call. Alicia forced a small, understanding nod. Yeah, sure. They're your company, your responsibilities. He heard the subtle tension in her voice, the echo of old wounds. I promise I won't be gone all day, or vanish into a million follow-ups. Let me do this, and I'll come right back. That's how serious I am about you guys. Her shoulders relaxed a fraction. Okay, she said softly. But be careful not to slip back into that rabbit hole. It's easy to get sucked in. Nathan's gaze flicked briefly to the closed bedroom door. He pictured the twins sleeping inside, blissfully unaware of corporate deadlines or mergers. I know, he said. This is different now. I'll handle it quickly. Alicia stood, arms folded in a half-hug around herself. I might take the twins to the indoor play area if they wake before you're done. Then we have dinner later, right? A small smile tugged at his mouth. Yes, definitely. Dinner, all four of us. I'll join you in the play area afterward if time permits. She nodded. Deal. Their eyes held for a moment. Alicia's carrying both caution and hope, Nathan's reflecting determination. He grabbed his jacket, gave a final glance at the bedroom where his children slept, and headed out. His heart felt oddly heavy, torn between two worlds. The corridor bustle seemed louder now, the swirl of voices jarring his focus. In the elevator, he stared at his phone, pondering how best to keep his vow to Alicia and the twins while still appeasing the demands of the board. When the doors slid open, he made a beeline for his own suite. The plush space felt sterile compared to Alicia's cozy cabin, but it had the privacy he needed for a conference call. He settled at the desk, flipping open his laptop. The screen flared to life, revealing a flurry of urgent emails. A few quick minutes later, he joined the virtual meeting. Martin's face popped up, followed by several board members. Some wore stern expressions. The tension over the proposed merger was evident. Polite greetings were exchanged, but the board's mood was serious. "Mr. Parker," one of the directors began, "we need immediate clarification on the projected synergy in London. There's fear the cost might outweigh the benefit." Nathan forced the smooth corporate charm back into his voice. He explained the synergy metrics, addressed concerns about transitional costs, and assured them of the strategic advantage. His mind worked at full tilt. After all, he was used to this. But in the back of his thoughts, an image of Lucas and Lily's tiny faces lingered, pushing him to conclude matters swiftly. The discussion stretched longer than he wanted. Board members asked additional questions, and Martin supplemented with spreadsheets, but the final sign-off still hung in precarious balance. Finally, after almost 90 minutes of back and forth, they reached a provisional agreement. Nathan's presence had indeed saved the deal from stalling. When the last board member logged off, Martin exhaled. "Thanks, Nathan. I know you're on personal time. We might need a quick follow-up tomorrow, but for now I think we're good." Nathan kept his voice calm. "All right, tomorrow's call. Let's keep it short. I have obligations here." Martin seemed to sense the boundary. Understood. Once the call ended, Nathan shut the laptop with a decisive click. He checked the time. He'd been away almost 2 hours. Anxiety flared. He quickly tidied the desk, shrugged on his jacket, and hurried out the door. As he headed toward Alicia's deck, he passed clusters of guests returning from afternoon activities, some dressed in swimwear, others carrying souvenir bags from the port. The children's play area, according to the ship's map, was a few corridors away, near a bright mural of cartoon sea animals. Rounding the corner, he heard the echo of young laughter. Inside, padded flooring was scattered with brightly colored foam blocks, mini slides, and soft toys. A few parents chatted on benches, observing toddlers who crawled or toddled around. Searching the room, he spotted Alicia. She was cross-legged on the floor, gently bouncing Lily on her knee while Lucas lay on a playmat, batting at a dangling toy. He approached quietly. Alicia noticed him and gave a small smile of relief. "That was quick," she said, though the mild note of wariness hadn't vanished. Nathan crouched, offering Lucas his hand. The baby responded with a sunny grin, wiggling in excitement. "I tried to make it quick," he admitted, looking at Alicia. "Went as fast as I could. How are they doing?" "Good. They woke up a bit grumpy, but some playtime here brightened their mood." She took in his slightly disheveled appearance, a sign of his rushed departure and return. "You look like you sprinted across the ship." He sat beside her, Lily reaching out to pat his shirt. "I did. I didn't want to waste another minute." Alicia's cheeks warmed at that. Silence settled in for a moment, replaced by the gentle babble of other children around them. Nathan picked up a soft block shaped like a fish and wiggled it in front of Lily, who gurgled happily. After a while, Alicia spoke, voice low enough that only Nathan could hear over the ambient noise. "Thank you for coming back so soon. It means a lot. And maybe it shouldn't be surprising, but it is, because the old you might have gotten sucked into a follow-up meeting or a call or something else." He set the toy block down, turned to face her. "I know. The old me would have. But I'm here now, and I'm not letting that slip away. Her expression softened. I see that. Then, in a quieter tone, I feel it too. They both reached for Lucas at the same time, his chubby arms reaching upward as if to join the conversation. Alicia scooped him into her lap, and Nathan wrapped an arm around them. Lily, noticing the attention, promptly shuffled closer until she could place a tiny hand on Nathan's knee. They stayed like that for a moment. Alicia in the center, holding Lucas, Lily leaning on Nathan's leg, the gentle chaos of the play area swirling around them. For an outsider, it might look like a snapshot of a contented family, and for them, it was a precious slice of something they'd nearly missed forever. Eventually, Alicia broke the spell. Let's get them cleaned up and changed before dinner. She rose carefully, balancing Lucas against her hip. Nathan lifted Lily in his arms, pressing a light kiss to the top of her head. Standing side by side, they maneuvered the stroller out of the play area, heading toward the nearest elevators. The ship's overhead lights glistened on the polished floors, reflecting the vibrant world around them. Nathan glanced at Alicia, who looked somewhat tired, but undeniably more at peace than when he'd first knocked on her door that morning. He placed a gentle hand at the small of her back, guiding her and the twins down the hall. So, dinner. Where would you like to go tonight? Alicia shrugged, adjusting Lucas. There's a family-friendly Italian restaurant on Deck 9. We could try that. His eyes crinkled with a warm smile. Italian sounds perfect. They continued onward, Lily fussing a little, perhaps from hunger or the swirl of new experiences. Yet the small group pressed on, forging a path through the lively corridors, bound by the unspoken decision to keep building on these moments. Outside, the day was beginning its fade into evening, but inside, for Alicia, Nathan, and their children, a new day in their family's future was just dawning. The dinner crowd at the family-friendly Italian restaurant on Deck 9 was already gathering by the time Nathan and Alicia arrived with the twins. Soft instrumental music played in the background, and the warm lighting gave the space a cozy, inviting feel. Families filled most of the tables, children occupying booster seats or coloring on provided paper placemats. The savory scent of garlic, basil, and tomato sauce drifted through the air. Nathan guided the stroller near the entrance, scanning for a space roomy enough to accommodate Lily and Lucas's high chairs. A hostess wearing a cheerful smile approached. "Buonasera, table for 4, well, 2 and 2 little ones?" she teased gently, noticing the twins. "Yes, please," Alicia replied. She looked over at Nathan, who stood protectively close, as if ready to shield them from any jostling crowds. It was a small gesture, but she felt a flicker of gratitude nonetheless. The hostess led them to a corner booth with extra space for strollers. Alicia and Nathan busied themselves, settling Lily and Lucas into a pair of side-by-side high chairs. The twins were still a bit fidgety from the excitement of the day, so Alicia instinctively handed them each a soft chew toy. Lucas shook his vigorously, while Lily gnawed at hers with single-minded focus. Before long, a waiter appeared handing them menus adorned with whimsical cartoon illustrations meant to entertain kids. "Welcome. Can I start you off with some drinks? Maybe a fruit juice for the little ones?" he asked, voice jovial. "That would be great," Alicia said. "And water for us, please. Maybe we'll decide on something else once we look at the menu." Nathan nodded in agreement, then flipped open the menu to the children's section, glancing at Alicia. "They're probably good with something simple, maybe mashed pasta or steamed veggies." She peered over his shoulder. "Yes, Lucas likes soft pasta if it's not heavily sauced, and Lily might be open to some mashed tomato." A flicker of amusement tugged at Nathan's mouth. "I guess that means plain penny for them. We'll see if they'll try a bit of the sauce on the side." The pair ordered swiftly. A small portion of plain penny for the twins and for themselves. Alicia chose a chicken marsala dish while Nathan selected a classic spaghetti bolognese. The waiter noted it all with a flourish of his pen. While they waited, Lily began to fuss, her toy slipping from her grip and landing on the floor with a dull thud. She let out a few sharp cries that drew the attention of nearby diners. Alicia stooped to retrieve it, but Lily remained disgruntled, arms flailing. "I can take her for a minute," Nathan offered gently. Alicia nodded, and he lifted Lily from the high chair, adjusting her against his shoulder. The baby whined, but he bounced on his heels in a soothing rhythm. "Shh! Hey, it's okay," he murmured, rubbing her back. Gradually, Lily's cries softened to sniffles. A couple of other parents at nearby tables glanced over with sympathetic smiles, acknowledging that universal experience of a baby meltdown mid-meal. Alicia exhaled. "Thank you. She's been extra sensitive this evening. Maybe it's just a growth spurt or overstimulation from the day in port." Nathan settled into a soft sway, continuing to calm Lily. "She's had a lot to see," he agreed, voice hushed. "But she'll be okay." Lucas, meanwhile, was content with his chew toy, slapping it on his high chair tray as if testing out a personal drumbeat. Alicia entertained him by clapping in time, and he giggled at the new game. Soon enough, the drinks arrived, small cups of cool juice for the twins, which Alicia would help them sip, and tall glasses of ice water for the adults. Alicia carefully offered Lucas a sip of juice from a straw, guiding the cup so only a tiny amount reached his mouth. He smacked his lips, eyes lighting with approval. Lily, seeing her brother, let out an indignant grunt, and Nathan chuckled as he eased her back into her high chair so she could have a turn. Watching them both handle the twins' needs so seamlessly, an older woman from a neighboring table leaned over. "They're darling," she remarked. "Twins must be quite the adventure." Alicia offered a polite nod. "It definitely keeps us busy." She didn't elaborate on the fact that until recently, she'd managed that busyness alone. Nathan added, "But they're worth every challenge," sending Alicia a meaningful glance. Not long after, their meals arrived. Nathan watched as the waiter placed 2 small bowls of plain penny in front of Lily and Lucas. A side dish of tomato sauce was set within Alicia's reach in case Lily felt adventurous enough to dip her pasta. For the parents, plates piled with steaming Italian fare gave off mouth-watering aromas. "All right," Alicia said lightly, testing the penny for temperature. "Time to see if they'll actually eat." Lucas was first to reach for a piece of pasta, chubby fingers fumbling as he brought it to his mouth. He gummed it thoughtfully, making a face that could have been curiosity or mild distaste, then eventually swallowed. Lily, on the other hand, refused to pick it up, grabbing at Alicia's hand instead. Alicia dipped a single pasta piece in a little sauce and offered it. Lily sniffed, wrinkled her nose, then accepted a tentative bite. A messy affair, but still progress. Nathan, enjoying his own spaghetti, paused often to assist, wiping stray sauce from Lily's mouth, making sure Lucas didn't fling pasta onto unsuspecting diners. The twins alternated between playful interest in the food and minor fussiness, standard for 2 babies experiencing new tastes and an energetic atmosphere. Amid the mini chaos, Alicia and Nathan managed to eat their own meals. They shared random observations, a particularly delicious seasoning in the chicken, the boat's subtle rocking that evening, or whether they might try the gelato bar for dessert. Moments of unguarded laughter emerged when Lily snatched a spoon or when Lucas spluttered tomato sauce, drawing comedic sputters from them both. Halfway through the meal, the restaurant lights flickered, one of those routine power adjustments a large ship makes. For a split second, the hum of conversation quieted, and Alicia seemed to tense, remembering the earlier storm. But the moment passed quickly as everything normalized. Nathan studied her. "You okay?" She smiled wanly. "Yes, I guess I'm jumpy. I keep expecting something to go wrong. It's been so nice these last couple of days. Almost unreal." He reached across the table, gently brushing her knuckles. "Nothing's going to go wrong," he said quietly, more of a hope than a guarantee. "I'm here." Alicia's eyes flickered with gratitude and lingering caution, "I know," she whispered back, "and I'm trying to trust that." They continued their dinner, finishing off the plates in between corralling noodles and wiping tiny faces. Once the waiter cleared the table, he grinned at the sight of pasta remnants on Lily's bib and Lucas's tray. "Looks like they enjoyed a feast," he teased good-naturedly, handing Alicia the check. Nathan cleared his throat. "Let me, please," he insisted gently, pulling out his wallet. Alicia didn't argue this time, passing him the check. He paid swiftly, adding a tip for the staff's patience. By the time they were done, the twins were getting restless again. Small yawns and eye-rubbing indicated bedtime was near. Alicia stood, gathering diaper bag items. "We should get them settled." Nathan rose too, carefully lifting Lucas. "Agreed. Let's head back to your cabin. We can do bedtime routines. I'd like to help." She offered a nod. "All right, let's do that." Navigating out of the restaurant, they joined a slow-moving cluster of families likely heading toward cabins as well. Lily, in the stroller, stared with drooping eyelids at the passing corridor lights. Lucas clung to Nathan's shirt, occasionally nuzzling his face against Nathan's shoulder. Although the hallway was busy, Alicia and Nathan felt cocooned in their own small circle, forging forward step by step. Back in Alicia's suite, the familiar routine kicked in, changing diapers, slipping the twins into soft night clothes, and preparing bottles. Nathan observed every detail, mentally cataloging how best to cradle them, how Alicia used a gentle shushing sound to soothe their fussing. Step by step, it felt more natural for him to stand side by side with her, co-parenting, not just a guest in her space. The final phase involved dimming the lights in the bedroom and turning on a soft lullaby from Alicia's phone. She placed Lily in the portable crib, while Nathan carefully settled Lucas in the other. With hushed voices, they rubbed the twins' backs, waiting for their breathing to slow and eyelids to close. Eventually, only the lullaby's soft notes and the twins' quiet sighs remained, drifting them into sleep. Slipping out of the bedroom, Alicia exhaled. "They're out," she murmured, relief mingling with exhaustion. Nathan followed her into the living area, feeling the weight of the day, productive, emotional, fulfilling, resting on his shoulders. Yet it was a good weight, the kind that signified he'd been part of something meaningful. "You heading to your cabin now?" Alicia asked, voice subdued. "I know it's late, and you might be tired." He considered it. A part of him yearned to stay just in case she needed more help if the twins stirred. But he sensed she might want a moment to herself as well. "I probably should. Unless you—" She touched his arm softly. "Thank you for all your help. Really. Let's meet in the morning? We can decide what to do on our last full day at sea before the cruise ends." He nodded, eyes reflecting both satisfaction and an unspoken longing for more time. "Sure. Let's plan on breakfast again. 8-ish? "That works," she agreed, stepping closer. Her tone shifted, gentler. "And, Nathan, I appreciate you handling that work call quickly. It means a lot to me to see you try to balance it all." Emotions welled in his chest. He reached up, briefly brushed the back of his fingers against her cheek. She didn't flinch or pull away, and that alone felt like progress. "I promise I'm doing my best." She offered the faintest of smiles, her gaze drifting to the closed door of the bedroom. "And the twins, they're adjusting to you faster than I expected. That's a good sign." He let his hand drop, nodding with quiet gratitude. "I'll keep giving them reasons to trust me." Alicia walked him to the door. For a moment they lingered, neither quite ready to say goodnight. Finally, Alicia opened it softly, letting the corridor's subdued lighting spill in. "Good night, Nathan." "Good night, Alicia." He stepped out, turning back briefly. "Rest well. You deserve it." She nodded, her eyes warm, then gently shut the door. Nathan stood in the corridor, heart thrumming. He realized that although the day had demanded he juggle fatherhood and CEO responsibilities, he had managed, imperfectly, yes, but still. And for the first time, he believed that maybe this was sustainable, that he could truly have both. The family he never knew he wanted, and the career he'd once allowed to eclipse everything else. With that thought bolstering him, he headed toward his own suite, footsteps echoing against the quiet hallway. Tomorrow would be another day, another chance to prove he could be the man Alicia and their twins needed, and he was determined to make the most of every second left on this ship and every day afterward. The following morning, the cruise ship rocked gently on calm seas, its engines humming softly beneath the decks. Through the large windows of his suite, Nathan watched early sunlight dance on the waves, casting shifting patterns of gold and sapphire. He'd been up for half an hour already, too keyed up with excitement, and perhaps a whisper of nerves, to linger in bed. He was supposed to meet Alicia and the twins for breakfast again at 8, but an idea stirred in his mind. He could surprise them, show Alicia that he was ready to step up, not just in small ways, but also by actively organizing parts of their day. He quickly dressed in neat, comfortable clothes, then left his suite and made his way to one of the top-deck cafes. There, he pulled aside a friendly staff member he'd befriended earlier. "I was wondering if I could arrange something special, a small table or corner where we can have breakfast a bit more privately. Nothing too fancy, just quiet enough for 2 babies and their mom." The staff member, recognizing him from previous nights, offered a bright smile. "Absolutely, Mr. Parker. We can set up a reserved corner in the cafe. We'll be sure to have high chairs ready and maybe a little flour on the table." Nathan felt a swell of gratitude. "Thank you. I appreciate it." With that settled, he headed to Alicia's cabin, brimming with an eager energy. He knocked quietly, adjusting his shirt. After a moment, Alicia answered, balancing Lucas on her hip, already in a fresh onesie. Lily was nearby on a small playmat, babbling to herself. "Hey," Alicia said, flashing a hesitant smile. "You're early." Nathan couldn't help smiling back. "I thought maybe we could do something different for breakfast, someplace quieter on the top deck. I arranged a small table with the staff." She arched a brow, looking equal parts intrigued and cautious. "Really? That's thoughtful. Let me just grab a couple of things. Diaper bag, extra clothes, their blankets." Lucas wriggled, patting Alicia's shoulder. Nathan held out his arms. "Here, I can take him while you pack." She passed Lucas over. The baby peered up at Nathan with bright curiosity, and Nathan gave an affectionate nuzzle. "Morning, buddy," he whispered. "Ready for a day of adventure?" Alicia hurried about, gathering the twins' gear. Then she scooped Lily from her playmat, and together they stepped into the corridor. As they walked, Alicia seemed pensive. "I feel like this trip is going by so fast. Tomorrow we dock back at the home port, and real-life resumes." Nathan's features softened. "It doesn't have to go back to the old normal," he said, carefully maneuvering Lucas in his arms. "We can create a new routine, one where I'm not just a phone call or a passing face. That's my plan anyway." She nodded. "I want that too, assuming we figure out how." They arrived at the cafe where a discreet sign labeled "Reserved for Parker Family" adorned a small corner table. 2 high chairs stood beside it, and a single bloom in a tiny vase added a gentle touch of charm. Alicia's eyes widened. "This is lovely," she murmured, glancing at Nathan. "Thank you." He felt a light warmth in his chest. "Just wanted to make breakfast a bit less hectic. You've had enough chaos." They settled Lily and Lucas into the high chairs, then slid into chairs across from each other. A waiter appeared with a bright smile, offering them coffee, tea, or juice, and a small dish of mashed fruit for the babies. Alicia requested orange juice for herself, coffee for Nathan, plus some oatmeal or pancakes for the twins. Nathan ordered a veggie omelet, while Alicia decided on fresh fruit and yogurt. As they waited, Alicia wiped a small drool patch from Lily's chin. "So, have you checked your phone yet this morning? Any more corporate fires?" Nathan shook his head. "I turned it on briefly, Saw a few messages from Martin about a quick check-in, but nothing critical. I'll handle it later after breakfast. She searched his expression. You're serious about not letting yourself get pulled away again? He met her gaze evenly. Yes. 1 hour won't make or break my company, but it could build or break our trust. I learned that the hard way. Her shoulders relaxed. All right then. She picked up Lucas's small spoon, prepping some soft oatmeal for him. Let's enjoy a proper family breakfast. It was, by all accounts, a warm, cheery meal. Lily occasionally tried to grab Alicia's spoon, determined to feed herself, which resulted in oatmeal smears on the high chair tray. Lucas, meanwhile, repeatedly dropped a toy, prompting an ongoing game where Nathan would retrieve it and hand it back, only for Lucas to grin and let it fall again. Each time, Nathan made a dramatic face, drawing giggles from both twins, and from Alicia, too. Between bites, Alicia and Nathan chatted about mundane things, the best baby lotion brand, whether Alicia might want to move closer to a bigger park, and which streaming shows they might watch once the twins were down for naps. In any other context, these topics might have seemed trivial, but to them, it felt like forging a shared vocabulary of daily life, a fundamental step toward unity. After the plates were cleared, the waiter brought a small dish of fruit slices arranged to look like a smiling face for the twins. They fussed only a bit, more fascinated by the shape of the slices than truly hungry. Alicia snapped a few photos on her phone, small, fleeting moments she wanted to keep. Nathan watched her capturing these scenes. "Send me those, please," he said softly. "I want to have them too." She paused, looking at him. "Of course," she murmured, a quiet warmth in her eyes. When they finished, Alicia glanced at the time. "We have a full day at sea. I thought maybe we could take them to that toddler music session around 11. It's an activity near the family pool, apparently. Then we'll have lunch, see if they nap, maybe enjoy the afternoon on the sun deck if the weather holds." Nathan nodded eagerly. "I'm in for anything. Toddler music session sounds adorable. I'll help wrangle them." Standing up, they maneuvered the stroller away from the table, thanking the staff and leaving a generous tip. As they walked through the corridor, they found themselves passing a few shops and lounges. Music drifted from somewhere, probably a band practicing for an evening show. Lily reached out from the stroller, enthralled by the sound. "She loves music," Alicia noted, leaning to brush Lily's hair. "Whenever I hum to her at home, she quiets down. That's one reason I wanted to check out the toddler session." Nathan smiled. "That's wonderful. Maybe I'll sing to them too if they can stand my voice." Alicia shot him a playful look. "You used to be pretty good at karaoke, remember?" He feigned a groan. "That was mostly comedic. But hey, if the twins enjoy it, I'll give them a private concert." They laughed together, the levity echoing in the corridor. Behind them, other passengers strolled leisurely. The day felt open, an inviting blank canvas for them to fill with small joys and incremental steps toward bonding. When they reached Alicia's cabin, they decided to pause. "I need to grab a fresh diaper for Lily," Alicia said, rummaging through the bag. "Do you mind just giving them a quick change before the music session?" "Not at all," Nathan answered. He carefully lifted Lily out of the stroller, placing her on the couch with a portable changing pad. She wiggled, but he'd grown more adept. Alicia handed him the diaper, and with calm, methodical care, he swapped out the old one. Lily kicked her legs, letting out a happy squeal once he was done. "That's my girl," he whispered, scooping her up into a gentle hug. She patted his shoulder as if rewarding his efforts. Alicia's gaze softened at the sight. "You're really getting the hang of this." He settled Lily back into the stroller, eyes warm with sincerity. "I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a lot to learn at once, but I love it. I love them." Her lips parted slightly, and for a moment, the air felt charged with unspoken emotion. Then she blinked, nodding. "I know. They can sense it too." They left the cabin, heading toward the toddler music session. The event was in a small lounge area converted into a kid-friendly zone with soft mats and tiny chairs arranged in a semicircle. A staff member with a guitar and a bright smile welcomed families, encouraging them to settle on the floor. Nathan and Alicia found a spot, placing Lucas and Lily in front of them. The session soon started, a cheerful round of nursery rhymes accompanied by guitar strums. Children of various ages clapped or wriggled, enthralled by the lively tunes. Lily bounced, arms flapping in excitement, while Lucas fixated on the guitar chords, eyebrows raised as though analyzing each sound. Alicia and Nathan joined in, gently clapping or tapping to the rhythm. They leaned in to help Lily pat her hands or guide Lucas in a simple swaying motion. The staff member led them through a series of short songs, encouraging the kids to make animal noises or wave small rattles. It wasn't lost on Nathan how natural it felt. Him on one side, Alicia on the other, the twins in between forming a snug circle. Each giggle from the babies ignited a surge of contentment in his chest. Alicia caught his eye mid-song, and her smile said everything. This is good. This is right. When the final tune ended, the staff member offered a round of applause for the children, calling them our superstar toddlers. Lily squealed, thoroughly delighted, while Lucas gave a rare but toothless grin. Parents slowly began to gather their belongings and leave. Alicia stretched. That was sweet. I think they had fun. Nathan agreed, lifting Lucas onto his knee. I think so. How about a quick walk around the deck before lunch? Let them enjoy some fresh air? She nodded. Yes, let's do that. They emerged onto the open promenade deck, greeted by bright midday sunshine and a mild breeze. The ocean spread out in a vast, shimmering expanse. Some passengers strolled hand in hand, others relaxed on lounge chairs sipping cold drinks. Pushing the stroller, they ambled at an easy pace, occasionally pointing out passing seagulls or remarking on the gentle ship's wake. Lily reached out as though trying to grab the wind, while Lucas squinted at the glare dancing on the water. Approaching the railing, Alicia parked the stroller, and they stood side by side, gazing out. A comfortable silence settled, the sound of waves, a steady companion. I could get used to this, she admitted quietly. Not the cruise itself, but the feeling of sharing daily moments with you and the twins. Nathan's hand found hers on the railing. She didn't pull away, and the contact felt both tender and momentous. Then let's keep it, he said softly. When the cruise ends, we'll find a way to make each day like this, connected, shared. She turned, face lit by the sun. I want that too, Nathan. I've been alone for so long that it's strange to imagine leaning on someone again, but I'm willing to try. He squeezed her hand gently. We'll figure it out, step by step. Lily let out an attention-seeking squeal, as though demanding the discussion shift back to more important matters, like her. They both laughed, looking down at the stroller. Alicia knelt to pass Lily a small plush toy. Yes, we hear you. At that moment, Nathan's phone vibrated in his pocket. His initial instinct was to ignore it, but a small thought nudged him. What if it's urgent? With a resigned sigh, he pulled it out, glancing at the screen. It was Martin again, presumably with a quick update. Alicia watched, but this time her expression showed more calm than anxiety. Go ahead, she said. Just keep it brief. Nathan answered in a hushed tone, turning slightly away so as not to disturb the babies. Martin's voice was quick. Hey, Nathan, just letting you know the London agreement is secure. Some final paperwork is pending, but it's smooth sailing. No need for extra calls today. Relief bloomed in Nathan's chest. That's good news. Thanks for the update, Martin. He ended the call, tucking the phone away. All good. We can enjoy the rest of the day without interruptions. Alicia stood, dusting off her knees. That's great. Let's feed these munchkins and maybe catch the afternoon kids' splash area. They might love seeing the little fountains. Nathan's face lit up at the idea. Yes, let's do that. Together, they resumed walking, the stroller rolling gently on the deck's smooth surface. A sense of quiet optimism buoyed them, two parents, side by side, forging a path that might one day feel as natural and unbreakable as the ocean's tide. And in that moment, under the bright sky and over glimmering waters, they both dared to believe that this new beginning was truly possible. Nightfall descended gracefully on the cruise ship for the last time before arriving back at port. Twinkling lights stretched across the deck rails, reflecting off the water and creating soft, dancing flecks of gold that swayed with each gentle wave. The air carried a festive excitement tinged with a hint of wistfulness, passengers savoring their final evening, recalling memories made throughout the voyage. In Alicia's cabin, the twins were tucked in for the night. The lullaby playing on her phone had just faded into silence, and now Lily and Lucas rested peacefully, each with a new wooden turtle toy placed beside them. The day had been full: toddler music, splashy giggles at the kiddie pool, a nap on the sun deck, and a leisurely family dinner. So it was no surprise that both babies drifted off without much fuss. Alicia eased the bedroom door closed, returning to the living area where Nathan waited, perched on the edge of the sofa. He turned toward her with a gentle expression. "They went down fast?" She nodded, exhausted. It's been a busy trip for them, so many firsts. Nathan exhaled softly, looking at the floor a moment. "I can't believe the cruise ends tomorrow morning. In a few hours we'll be back on land and real-life resumes," Alicia finished, lowering herself onto the sofa next to him. Her tone was careful, as if treading on sensitive ground. He shifted to face her fully. "I don't want us to walk off this ship and go our separate ways. I know we have to return to our individual routines, but I want to be there, with you and the twins. Maybe not in the same apartment at first, but in your daily life, as a consistent presence, so the babies know I'm around." Alicia studied his face. Memories of their past, the heartbreak, the missed months, the lonely nights, warred with the vivid warmth of the past few days. She took a breath. "I won't lie, Nathan. It's scary. I'm used to doing things alone, and I don't want to rely on you only to have you pulled away again. But I can see you've changed. Or at least, you're fighting to." He reached for her hand, brushing his fingers across her knuckles. "I'm determined to keep that fight going. We can take it step by step if you want. I'll come by more often, set up a flexible schedule. You and I can talk about possible living arrangements, maybe something closer to the city so I can easily handle work and still be with you all every evening. We'll adapt until we find our rhythm." Alicia's eyes flickered with both relief and unspoken hope. "That sounds good. Really good, actually. The twins deserve a father who shows up for them, and I can't deny that it's better for me too, having a partner to lean on. But I won't rush into combining households. Let's give them time to adjust to this new normal. Make sure it isn't a fleeting promise." Nathan squeezed her hand gently. "I understand. I'll do whatever you need to feel secure in this. I'm not letting them, or you, slip through my life again." She felt a lump rise in her throat. Quietly, she drew closer, leaning her head against his shoulder. For a moment, neither spoke. Outside the windows, the faint glow of the moon skimmed across the water. Inside the cabin, the hush wrapped around them like a soft blanket. Then, with a small smile, Alicia broke the silence. "You know, I was thinking about the day you left for that big expansion overseas. I remember how you promised we'd stay connected, but everything just unraveled." He swallowed, recalling that goodbye, the tears she shed, and how he'd convinced himself it was all necessary for success. "I'm sorry," he murmured, "for not listening when you asked me to slow down, for choosing the next big deal over our relationship." Alicia gave a slow nod. "We can't erase the past, but these last few days have shown me that maybe we can rewrite the present." He pressed a soft kiss to her temple, a tender, cautious gesture. She closed her eyes, allowing the closeness, and for a fleeting heartbeat, they both felt the ache of lost time mixed with the sweetness of a second chance. Eventually, she straightened, letting out a faint laugh. "We should probably pack. The ship's arrival is early and disembarkation can be chaotic." Nathan's eyes lingered on her face. "Let me help. Then we can rest." They rose from the sofa, each moving with quiet steps to avoid waking the twins. Alicia opened a closet where small baby outfits and her own clothes hung. She handed a few items to Nathan, who folded them carefully into a suitcase. The process felt strangely intimate, sorting through Lily's tiny rompers and Lucas's little shirts, tucking them away for the journey home. When they finished, Alicia zipped up the final bag and set it near the door. With a tired smile, she sank onto the sofa again. "I'll probably do a last-minute check in the morning, but that's most of it." Nathan settled beside her. The hush of the late hour and the soft glow of the cabin's lamp felt comforting. They were both tired, yet neither seemed in a hurry to separate just yet. Alicia glanced toward the bedroom, her voice dropping. "Tomorrow, we'll step off the ship. You'll go to your place, I'll go to mine." "Yes," Nathan said quietly. Then a firm resolve crept into his tone. "But we'll see each other soon. I'll pick a day, no, multiple days, every week to be with the twins. If you'll allow me, I can handle bedtime or baths, maybe help with errands, whatever it takes." She smiled, a tear brimming at the corner of her eye, though she quickly blinked it away. "Yes, we can do that." A stretch of silence enveloped them, thick with unspoken emotion. Finally, Nathan rose gently. "It's late," he said, voice hushed. "I'll let you get some sleep. I'll be here early to help you disembark. We'll figure out all the details, okay?" She stood too, nodding. "Okay." They walked to the door, each step echoing the weight of parting, though this time it didn't feel like an ending, but rather the start of something far more lasting. Alicia opened it, the corridor's subdued light drifting in. Nathan leaned in and pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. "Thank you for letting me in, for giving me a chance with them." Alicia rested a hand gently on his arm, the connection between them tangible. "You've earned that chance, Nathan. Keep it up." He offered a quiet grin and stepped out. She closed the door slowly, the latch clicking in a way that felt both final for the night, yet promising for the future. Dawn arrived too soon. Disembarkation announcements reverberated through the corridors, instructing passengers to gather their luggage and follow designated groups off the ship. Parents wrangled sleepy children, friends exchanged last-minute hugs, and staff lined up to bid farewell. Alicia finished buttoning Lily's coat, then zipped Lucas's jacket, the crisp morning air hinting at a cooler day on shore. Nathan stood by, helping manage their suitcases. Despite the bustle outside, a sense of calm underpinned their small group. As they rolled out into the corridor, Alicia carrying Lily and Nathan pushing Lucas in the stroller, they found themselves in the stream of departing travelers. The ship's grand lobby hummed with goodbyes, suitcases rolling across polished floors. At the gangway, Alicia paused, looking over the rail. A swirl of emotions lit her face. Gratitude for the voyage that changed her life, a twinge of sadness that it was over, and a cautious optimism for what lay ahead. Nathan placed a hand lightly on her back, guiding her forward. They stepped off the ship together, a family that was still learning to be one. A crisp breeze greeted them on the dock. Port staff offered directions, and the crowd funneled toward customs. While queuing, a middle-aged couple who had dined near them the first night recognized the twins. "We never got to say goodbye," the woman said with a warm smile. "Safe travels. You have lovely children." Alicia nodded politely, Nathan thanking them. Then they moved on, collecting final paperwork and stepping into the receiving area. The city spread before them, cars, buses, taxis, people scurrying about. It felt worlds away from the gentle lull of the ship. Nathan turned to Alicia. "Let me drive you. I arranged a car service. They can fit the stroller and everything." Alicia looked momentarily overwhelmed by the bustling port. "That would be... yes, thank you." She let out a breath, adjusting Lily against her hip. The baby peered around with big eyes, taking in the new environment. Lucas dozed in the stroller, lulled by the steady vibration of wheels on concrete. They found Nathan's arranged car, a spacious SUV with plenty of room for luggage. A courteous driver stepped forward to load their suitcases. Alicia secured the twins in child seats, a process that Nathan helped with carefully, ensuring each strap was just right. Finally, with everyone settled, the car pulled away from the port. The city's skyscrapers and bustling streets replaced the ocean's serene horizon. Nathan sat beside Alicia in the back seat, occasionally reaching over to reassure Lily or adjust Lucas's hat. They spoke in low tones, planning immediate logistics, where to stop for groceries, how to arrange the next day so Nathan could spend time at Alicia's apartment before or after his meeting. Every small plan felt momentous, a new thread weaving them closer. When they reached Alicia's building, the driver parked at the curb. Alicia unbuckled Lily and Nathan lifted Lucas from his seat. They stepped onto the sidewalk, a swirl of traffic and pedestrians around them. Nathan turned to Alicia, pressing Lucas gently into her arms. "I can come up and help carry everything inside if you want." She nodded, grateful. "Yes, please." They rode the elevator up to her floor. In the comfortable familiarity of the hallway, Alicia opened her door. The interior of her apartment still carried the feeling of the life she'd built on her own. Quiet, functional, bits of scattered baby toys. Yet, with Nathan here, it felt a shade different. They set down the luggage, and Alicia placed the twins in a small playpen, giving them a couple of toys to occupy them. Finally, she turned to Nathan with a soft, almost shy smile. "Thank you for everything. The trip, it was more than I expected." He stepped closer, careful not to crowd her. "It changed my life," he confessed, voice thick with emotion. "Seeing them, seeing you. I'm not the same man who boarded that ship. I'm not turning back." Alicia lifted a hand to his cheek. "I believe you, and I want this to work, for them, but also for us." Gently, he rested his forehead against hers, an intimate gesture that spoke volumes. The distant sound of Lily cooing and Lucas babbling reminded them that this was no dream. They were parents in this small, real moment, forging a future they almost lost. Slowly, Alicia pulled away, letting out a controlled breath. "We'll figure out the details day by day." Her gaze slid to the playpen where the twins watched them with curious eyes. "For now, you want to stay a bit? Maybe help me unpack or settle them?" Nathan's features brightened, relief washing over him. "I'd love that," he said, stepping over to the twins and crouching so he could greet them. "Hey, Munchkins, we're home, all four of us." Lily responded with a delighted squeal, and Lucas kicked his legs, a grin lighting up his small face. Alicia and Nathan shared a smile, a silent agreement that, yes, this was home, or at least the beginning of it. Their story was far from finished, but as they stood there in the gentle bustle of a new routine, suitcases half unpacked, toys scattered on the rug, and two little ones eager for attention, they felt the surest thing they'd had in years. A second chance, stronger than the waves that once separated them. And this time they were determined to anchor themselves in love, together. If you enjoyed this story, don't miss the next one. Just click on the screen.